This episode of the AFTN Soccer Show is brought to you by Recovery Family Law. Recovery Family Law is here to help you solve your family law problems. If you are going through a separation or divorce, they can provide you the confidence to make good decisions and support to enforce your rights. If you have a question about property, children or support, they have the answers. It's not too late or too early to get help. Email info@recoveryfamilylaw.ca or visit recoveryfamilylaw.ca and let their team get you excellent results.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. There's still time. The AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. Brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
Happy Easter, everybody. This episode coming out on Easter Monday, or as I always like to say on the show, Cheap Chocolate Day. Although I am getting more and more disappointed by that every year, Zach, I've got to say. I want to know what happens to all the chocolate stuff in Superstore and Walmart, because they used to put so much up that was half price, but now a lot of the eggs and stuff you're not getting. I do find Save On. Save On has been my go-to place the last couple of years. They've had a tremendous selection of cut price chocolate, and if you then wait another week, it's even cheaper, the stuff that they still haven't got rid of. So that's my tip for everyone.
Yeah.
I'll be looking forward to heading out and getting that.
Yeah, we'll be doing kind of egg hunt type stuff with the students I work with always after Easter, because it's, yeah, like you said, it's better. But different stores do different like have different approaches, and so you can find deals in different ways.
I was hoping to bring some stuff back from Scotland. I want to go to Hotel Chocolat, which is my chocolate place of choice over there. But I had so much stuff that I had to bring back from my parents, like sentimental stuff, photo albums, my giant East Fife flag, that I had no room to bring much back. I did bring some Marks and Spencer's spiced Easter biscuits, which have been delicious, and something that I always associate with Easter, which for me is the real meaning of Easter: Cadbury's mini egg cakes.
So for you, it's that, and for me, it's the resurrection of Jesus. So, you know,
very similar.
Tomato, right?
Yeah. Good Friday?
Yeah. What about Good Friday?
Did you have a Good Friday?
Good Friday is a very somber time.
Oh,
it's good.
I had a Good Friday. Was out with the dog.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I also had a good Saturday as well. We are recording this, we'll say, on Saturday night, and just to let you a little bit into the show, we've recorded this episode over a couple of days because we did some chats with Vancouver FC players on Tuesday, so we did record some stuff for the show then. So we're going to be talking Whitecaps in the first part, bit of Whitecaps, MLS, bring you a couple of post-game audio things with a couple of Canadian players, Kamal Miller and Max Crepeau. No, don't turn off. Keep listening. It is a good chat. We're talking about Canada and Copa and stuff like that. We've got a couple of interviews with Vancouver FC players coming up in parts 3 and 4. It's going to be a fun-filled show, Zach.
It will be.
And the time of recording this, it's 11:57 on Saturday night, going into Sunday morning, because we're doing it right after I got home from the Whitecaps game. And you're still awake. I've made myself a tea. Actually, one of the teas that I did bring back from Scotland, which is a orange biscuit flavoured tea. Exotic. Yeah. Anyway, let's kick things off by talking Whitecaps in this part. It was the first Cascadian derby of the year. The Whitecaps defending the Cascadia Cup, and they got off to a winning start. They did make it a lot more difficult for themselves than they really should have, though. I've got to say, a 3-2 win for the Caps over the visiting Portland Timbers in front of 24,693 fans. Actually looked more than that. I was saying to her, I thought it was maybe about 26, 27, because the lower bowl's obviously 27.5, and it didn't seem tons of empty seats there. But it's great that, I mean, I genuinely was concerned, and I asked Axel about this, and he didn't have the concern, that a number of the folks that's bought season tickets just for the Miami game weren't going to bother turning up for other games. But now we've had 3 games on the trot, over 20,000. Kind of feels a little bit like the old days, and the buzz is back. This was a huge one though, Zach, because those first 2 games, 1 point from 6 at home, hasn't been great performances. They kind of had to go out and put on a little bit of a show, I felt, to make sure you've got these fans keeping coming back. And it was a good fast start, a bit of a dip, and then came storming back at the end. And the majority of those fans are going to go home with a spring in their step and a buzz and think, oh, that was an entertaining game.
Yeah, in any season, Michael, whether it's a seemingly higher attendance season or a lower attendance season, you can usually count on matches against the Portland Timbers to be at or near the top of the attendance charts, and that was true again. I mean, these local interstate Cascadia derbies are massive, and again there was a contingent that was up from Portland.
Quite a good one as well. They weren't the loudest. I've heard them a lot louder before. We were talking a little bit before we were recording about the acoustics in the stadium, but I thought for an Easter weekend it was a really good turnout from them.
Yeah, they also didn't have as many flags as they used to.
No,
like the visual stuff was not.
Yeah, actually, I didn't see many at all.
Yeah, that's a bit concerning.
And I missed the tifo from the Whitecaps fans.
Yes.
So I'm sorry about that. Hopefully Tom has captured some photos of it.
Have you seen it? Anything from them?
Veggie burger? No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, shout out to the Vancouver Southsiders for a multi-part display that read Cascadia is blue and white. So some kind of blue and white capped mountains in the background, and then at the foreground I think was the individual kind of 2-6 of the each commemorating the Cascadia Cup victories.
Nice.
Yeah, it was sweet. You should check it out. Hopefully Tom.
Oh no, I will, and hopefully Tom has got some photos from it. I mean, this was your proverbial game of two halves, because it was a weird one. But we'll play a little bit from Vanni later on in this part. But I've got to read you what he said about the first half performance. He said, the first half, guys, was like, I don't know, if it was a city, it would be Florence. If it was a person, it would be my wife. If it was an idea, it would be socialism. That was how beautiful the first half was. That's a stretch.
Oh my.
It was a good first half.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite sure it was as beautiful as Florence. But I've been to it. It is a beautiful city.
Yeah. No, I mean, the Whitecaps came out on the front foot, and they were able to take advantage of a couple of Portland kind of errors that weren't even necessarily the biggest errors, but that led to massive scoring opportunities, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would argue, you look at all 5 goals in this game, and the defences are not going to be happy with any of them.
No. Yeah, I concur.
Yeah, there was some poor defending from both sides out in display. But what I liked about this was I we had our midweek call with Vanni, and I'd asked him on it about the game against RSL, that it felt, what we talked about in the show, that it was almost like an away performance. In the second half, I said, you kind of sat back and you just let RSL had the ball. I said, was that by design, or did RSL just control the game and you didn't have an answer for it? And it wasn't by design.
Yeah.
I thought, I was sitting back and defending the lead. Now, we'll come to the second half in this one in a sec as well, but it's very Jekyll and Hyde performances in some of these home games that we've seen from the Caps. This first half was a great first half, a lot of positives from it, and the crucial thing is, and what was constantly going through my mind during it was, they need to get the second goal. They need to get the second goal. You cannot allow Portland to get in and regroup just with a 1-goal lead, because you knew Portland were not going to be that poor in the second half. And we'll hear from Phil Neville as well. And he basically said in a derby game, that first half performance, especially the first half hour, was absolutely unacceptable. And he said you cannot lose a goal in the first 2 minutes of a derby game. And the Whitecaps, I don't know if it just caught Portland by surprise, but they came out all guns blazing, and it was great to see Ryan Gauld get his first goal of the year, and he had 2 bites at the cherry off it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't great defending, because that should never have come back to him if it was defended properly. But he took it well. And it's great to then get that kind of weight off his shoulders as well. He's got that first goal now, and hopefully opens up a little bit. Because we said in last week's show that wasn't his best performance. He seemed a little bit off.
Yeah. Technically, Michael, it wasn't 2 bites of the cherry, because the initial play was a cross. He was left footing a cross goal to try and set. I can't remember if it was Krylak or Pico.
Oh well, yeah, I guess he wasn't really going for goal.
Yeah, he wasn't going for goal. And for Portland, it's an unfortunate block / clearance that falls to Gauld. But to Gould's credit, he first times it with his right foot, his weaker foot, into an empty net, because Crepeau's already made the move to go across to defend the cross. And so it was opportunistic, and it was a quick reaction. But yeah, there was a little bit of fortune in it, as is similar to at least the second, and you could say the third goal as well.
As fortunate as that was, 7 minutes later in the 9th minute, they were unfortunate as Gauld rattled one off the bar, and then it's cleared off the line just before it can bounce in. And at this point, the Caps are flying. And
that play was beautiful.
Yeah,
that play was beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Superb stuff. And they kept the pressure on. Gauld then had a shot that was blocked. Vitae then fired one over, and you're like, oh boy. The movement of the team at this stage was tremendous. And Portland seemed to have no answer for it. And it was great to see. They needed this fast start, and I think, what I'll say about the first half in particular is, although you could say poor Portland defending, Portland had 61% possession in that first half, but did absolutely nothing with it, because the Whitecaps didn't let them do anything with it. They had 1 shot on target to the Whitecaps 4 in that first half, and 2 of those 4 end up in the back of the net. And the only one that the Timbers had was a long-range free kick that was straight into the breadbasket of Yohei Takaoka. So the Whitecaps definitely dominated the first half, and as it went on, really felt they had to get that second goal. And it came in the 29th minute, and it was an absolutely beautiful finish from Fafa Pico. But before we get to that, it was set up by Alessandro Schopf. And I think definitely the first half hour, but I'd say the first half, in my mind, that was his best half of football as a Whitecap.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's taken a lot of criticism this year for his play and performance and lack of contributions or being played out of position. And again, I think you'll find some people will say he shouldn't be in that wide right position for Vancouver. Especially maybe from the starting matches, maybe spelling people off at the end, but definitely not from the start. The crazy thing is, Michael, though, again, I would say his best play was the setup for the one that Gold, kind of chipped onto the crossbar.
Yeah.
Because on the second goal,
the movement from him in that one was just
because his cross on the second goal in the 29th minute, it's not really a great cross. It's again poor defending. Where, Timber kind of gets his foot on it, and it just
Zach McGraw, the most casual backheeled attempt at a clearance. If that was one of our guys, I would be berating the hell out of them right now. That is unacceptable defending. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure Phil Neville, as a defender, told him that because he did not come out for the second half.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. It was very casual and very, very hopeful. Having said that, a wonderful strike from Fafa. Just a wonderful finish, left Max with little to no chance of getting anywhere near it, and it was a dream start.
29 minutes, you're 2-0 up in a Cascadian derby and absolutely flying. And I mean, there wasn't really much else happened in the first half after that, but it was commanding, and I wasn't concerned at all. If it had been 1, I probably would have been, especially after last week. But for as good as Alexander Schopf was in that first half, he disappeared in the second half, and he was not alone, because that was a really poor second half performance. Portland, you knew were going to come out strong, and they really started to the first 5-6 minutes of the half, they were on the front foot. The Whitecaps had the first real chance of the second half with another Fafa effort that went over. But then Portland reduced the deficit to 1, and they then just really started to take the game to Vancouver. The goal that got them back into it. So Kubas had just been booked and was tracking back, and Paredes got the better of Kubas and was on the edge of the box and played it inside to a wide open Evander. And we've seen already in the opening weeks of the season how dangerous Evander is and what a key player he is going to be for Portland this year as well. He could have picked it out wherever he wanted it, but we talked about Fafa's finish. This was an equally beautiful finish.
Oh, yeah. The key to the play, though, I think what you said at the beginning, is how Portland kind of played from the left there and kind of went around Kubas. They got Kubas a little bit out of position.
You don't see that often against them. And we will say that having Kubas back was in the first half, you saw the difference.
Yeah, and then like you said, Evander with a tremendous shot. He was by far Portland's player of the game. Obviously, I think Pico probably would maybe be the. Yeah, if it had finished
2-2, I'd have said Evander was the man of the match.
Yeah.
But with the winner, which we'll come to in a sec, for me, it was definitely Fafa. But that was a great finish, but you can't give that space
up.
You're
so open, so much time. Yeah, you can't allow that.
And the second goal that we'll come to in a sec, the defending was arguably worse for that. But then that kind of kick-started the Whitecaps. And they had this spell where their passing, their movement, the crosses, the balls into the box, everything was a joy to watch. It was really nice football, but there was nobody at the end of all these passes. And the killer third goal just didn't come. There was so many squandered opportunities. There was a cutback, and there was nobody there. There was a cross. There was nobody there. There was just no takers. And you kind of, like speaking to JJ after it, it's like that was the kind of game and that spell where you missed Brian White. He always finds himself in those kind of positions to get himself on it. But it was just, there was just nobody there in the right place at the right time. And it came back to haunt them, because they really should have had 1 or 2 goals from those chances that they were creating, because there were some really, really good chances there. And in the 77th minute, Mora gets the equaliser, great work by Evander again. This time, kind of turned Ali Ahmed inside and out. Now, it should be noted, and it may have come across in the broadcast, I don't know. The Whitecaps were waiting to bring on their 3 subs.
Yes, it was noted on the broadcast.
Right. So it was clearly tiring Vancouver legs out there, and one of them in particular was Ali Ahmed.
Which we didn't mention it in the first half. He was one of the sparks that gave them the ability to play on the front foot, along with, like you said, Kubas's return. But yeah, he was his normal self that just gave him so much life in that first half.
Yeah, and it's understandable. Like it's Ramadan. He's still fasting until the April 9th. At least this was an evening game, so he was able to take water on for it, which he hasn't been able to do for the 4:30 games. But you could see that he was tiring, and you knew that was going to be one of the substitutions. And you just wish that you could have made it quicker. I didn't get a chance to go into Vanni post game because Har and me went to the Portland locker room because we wanted to make sure we caught Max and Kamal. So I've been reading what Vanni said, but I definitely would have asked him, did he want to does he wish he'd made that sub just quicker? Because I'm not sure that goal would have come. But I mean, full credit to Evander, he did so well. The ball he whipped in was phenomenal.
It was amazing,
and it was it was great movement by Mora. It was a good header. Tristan Blackman, though, that's poor defending on him. Again, you're marking the zone, you're not marking the player, but he just let Mora ghost in behind him.
Yeah, and you could see Blackman's reaction, like it was almost like, oh, no one's coming there, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Like no one's got that space. Then he was like, oh shoot, Mora's got that space.
It was a really well worked goal by Portland. It was very impressive, and I've got to be brutally honest. At that point, I thought Portland were going to get the third. If you'd said to me, "There's another goal in this game," I would have thought it was coming from the Timbers. I didn't think the Caps were going to have an answer to that.
You didn't take any excitement from the changes that Vanni made?
Oh, I did, and as it turned out, they brought renewed vigor to Vancouver. So I wasn't sure it was going to do that
because it was great. It was great to see Sam come back.
It was. And he took a yellow for a very good foul. I like those kind of yellows. It's worth getting a booking for that. But when the subs were waiting to come on, in my mind, they had been subs that were going to close the game down.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bit concerned that it wasn't then going to have the spark that they needed. And I'm so rooting for Levante Johnson this season. I just want him to have a really good year, and he's getting a couple of opportunities. And he just, a couple of times tonight, he just couldn't get the ball out of his feet. And I was hoping he was maybe going to be the guy that was going to be the game changer. But the subs, as it turned out, brought this renewed vigour, as I said, to Vancouver, and they were better than to close out the game. And I think deserved winners probably in the end. I mean, a draw would have been a fair result, I think, as well. But I think in the overall complexion of the game, I think the Whitecaps deserved the 3 points in that. It was a scrappy winner, we've got to be honest. But great work, great tenacity from Fafa to keep on that.
Well, first off, it wasn't perfect, but it was a dangerous ball in from Sam.
Yeah.
Right, like
good ball in from Sam, and he looked good out there.
Totally, but you're right.
He spoke to Har midweek. If folk haven't read that, definitely check that out. And he'd spoke about how he kind of struggled a little bit when he first came back on the turf, and that kind of added to the injury. So that is a concern going forward. But it was great to see him back out there and having an impact.
It was interesting. I don't know if you caught after the goal. Did you see? I'm not sure what he meant by it. Kamal Miller picks up the ball and I don't know if he's trying to throw it at his defender or throw it at the back of Ryan Raposo.
Oh, I never saw.
Yeah, I think he was angry maybe at his teammate for the poor challenge, or I don't. Maybe he was mad that they scored, and maybe it wasn't intentional, but it kind of looks like he's throwing the ball at
Oh,
it does no damage, and I
yeah.
don't think there was any intent. It was kind of funny.
I know
Um,
Max was appealing for offside,
yes, yeah,
and I've got to say, my because obviously we're watching it live and you haven't seen the replay or anything. My immediate thought was, I think this is going to get called off, not for offside. I thought a boot had gone in to
oh
Max
yeah,
and that had
yeah,
caused
yeah,
Max to spill it. But then you see it back and it's like, oh no,
yeah,
Max just spilled that ball.
yeah, yeah,
And then you see the offside and Raposa Times is run perfectly.
yeah,
And Fafa said afterwards, he's like, I don't care that Ryan put that away, although he called him by a nickname, which I forget what it was. But he said, I don't even think it was going in. So someone needed to be there to put that in. So he's
yeah. I don't.
delighted.
If someone doesn't touch it, I think it's cleared.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But like Ryan Raposa's reaction to it was great, following in. He timed that run to perfection, but Fafa to get that ball in, it
yeah,
was great work, scrappy, poor defensive play again. And Max will certainly watch that back and feel, yeah, I need to hold on to those.
yeah.
Kamal Miller had a header that didn't miss by much
At
in
the very
stoppage
end,
time as
yes,
well, yeah.
yes.
But I haven't seen the penalty incident.
I was going to ask you about that.
They didn't show a replay in the stadium. Phil Neville feels, from what he saw, that it was a penalty, but he hasn't seen it back either. So, I mean, talk to me about it.
I was a little surprised it wasn't given. I think when you watch a
He
match,
took
you'll
so
be like,
long to look at it. I was like, oh,
yeah,
this is getting given.
yeah. That's what sort of I felt. I was just like, Raposo does grab him, but it's a little bit innocuous, a little bit unintentional. But there is a grab, and he does hold his
Mm.
shoulder. I don't know if it's because the guy went down so easy. But honestly, when I saw the first replay, I was like, oh, this is going to be a penalty.
Because I said to Alex, because we all crowded around the TV looking for the replay that they never showed,
Yeah,
because it was the stadium feed
you're right.
that were on the TVs and not the Apple feed. And I said, I'm sure I saw hands on him.
Oh, he no, his hand makes contact, I believe he does. I might be wrong, but I believe he does actually even like get a hold of him
Ooh.
momentarily. And I thought, oh, that's going to be enough in this world
Oh
or in
yeah, I
MLS.
mean, from your description, if that was reversed, I'd be screaming for a
Oh
penalty
yeah,
for that.
that's what I meant. Yeah, I was going to be like, if that, yeah, Michael, if that happened to your team, you would be probably losing your mind. But look at it later. Let me know what you think.
Interesting.
I haven't seen the highlight package, so I don't know if it's in there. But probably not if it's as
Yeah,
controversial as I think it is.
MLS do tend to miss those out. Might have to wait for instant replay for it. I'll watch it back on Apple. That's the problem with recording right after the game. I haven't always seen everything. But I mean, overall, it was a very solid performance. They shouldn't have let Portland back into it. That's something they need to work on. Ali Ahmed, after the game, brutally honest, said he felt they were maybe a little bit complacent in the second half and
Mhm.
they weren't what they needed to be. So if they at least know that and can work on it a little bit, but you've got to get to the root of that because you let RSL get back into it last week and really RSL were worthy winners. If Portland had gone on to get a third, I don't think too many folk would have been like, well, they didn't deserve it for that second half performance. But ultimately, it was 3 big points, and it's 3 big points that's moved them up to second in the standings, 2 points off first with a game in hand.
Yeah, I think we can nitpick, and we did a little bit as we were going through things about the negatives or the downsides or the errors from Portland or whatever. Ultimately, it's a massive 3 points. Like it's huge. The first home win of the year, and you can nitpick it all you want. It's massive. It's massive for them. As they said in the pre-match tifo, Cascadia remains blue and white. They're looking to win it for the eighth time, which would be the new record, right? Because they equaled Seattle's 7 last year. And no, I think it's an exciting time. I don't we didn't talk about too much, but the return of Vanni, I think, was meaningful. I mean,
Yeah,
the halftime you talked about, maybe the halftime didn't go as well as they would have liked, the adjustments there, but I think that's huge. And like you said, almost 25,000 people in the ground went away. Disregarding the defensive part of it, they saw 5 exciting goals, right? And so I think
they saw an exciting derby game. They saw a win. And late goals always send you home thinking, "Oh, I can't wait now to the next game."
Next one,
and it's a Canadian derby.
Yes,
Herdman's coming to town, so it's going to be good. But I mean, you mentioned Vanni there. Let's just hear a little bit of post-game audio from both the gaffers. First of all, Vanni Sartini, and then Portland Timbers, Phil Neville.
Coach, what's going through your mind in the last 5 minutes or so of that game?
I felt that we could have scored because we were on top of them, to be honest. I think they were the best team only for 10 minutes when they scored the 2-1. When they scored the 2-2, actually, we were playing better than them already. We could have scored like the third and the fourth goal. So I was a little bit kind of frustrated because we weren't winning, and I think we were deserving to win. And the second thing, and so when we scored, I was very happy. And, I was extremely happy that the goal happened because of Sam, that he came back, and Ryan, that he scored. And so guys that came off the bench, and they, like we do sometimes, we always say that the team is the leader. And I think the performance of the guys that came on today was extremely good. Bjorn came on, and you've seen at the end, he saved a couple of crosses, and he was really good. Levy gave us this. We were not able to press anymore, so we needed fresh legs, and Levy was able to do so after the 2-1. So that's the reason why we were, I think, in the best team after the 2-1, and then everyone else, Sebastian and Ryan were really good, and I also made possible to Fafa to attack the first post. I think I told him like a million times from January 15, and maybe it's a little, even though he speaks Italian very well, maybe I wasn't able to make him understand, but he did fantastically. I think he was the best player on the field today, so I'm very happy. Yeah.
That's 2 games in a row where your side has gone up early in the first half and then conceded goals midway through the second. Is that a trend that's concerning you, or do you think that's something that can be addressed pretty quickly?
I think it's a little different than last game. So last game, the second half was completely bad. This game, the first 15 minutes weren't that good, but we also have been, I don't want to say unlucky because the goal is a banger. They scored a fantastic goal, but that's the chance that they had to score. They didn't have 3-4 chances, and then they scored like Salt Lake last time. So I would say it's a kind of different. The first half, guys, was like I don't know. If it would be a city, it would be Florence. This is the first half. How beautiful it was. If it would be a person, would be my wife. How beautiful it was. So that's how beautiful the first half was. So that's if it would be an idea, it would be socialism. So that's how beautiful it was. That's the way that we played in the first half. So I'm really happy.
So Phil, what's your first taste of a Cascadian derby? Obviously you're used to a lot of derbies, but what did you make your team's performance? The first half, you didn't create a lot, but the second half you seemed to come out all guns blazing.
Yeah, I thought the first 30 minutes was totally unacceptable in a derby game. The amount of I'd just say the start of the game. You don't start derby games like that, going and goal down after 90 seconds, and that put us on the back foot for the first 20-25 minutes. It wasn't until the last 10 minutes where we started to get some kind of control in the game that we wanted at the start, and show some quality that we wanted at the start, and stop the transitions like we'd planned all week. So that was really disappointing. Then I'd say for the next 40 minutes we were the team that were dominating the game. There was only one team looking to score, there was only one team in control of the game, and we get back in the game, and again another lapse in concentration cost us. And you can't come away from home, or you can't play games in this league, concede 3 goals and expect to win games of football. And if you score 2 goals away from home, you should be getting points. And we've got to learn, and we've got to learn really quick.
What did you tweak at half time? Because you really came out in the front foot at the start of the second half.
Well, I think we just told some home truths. I think sometimes you people have got to take accountability, and Evander was probably the best player on the pitch. I thought he grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck, and I thought he did that in the first half. He was the one that had the courage to play under pressure. He was the one that was trying to make things work, and he drove the team forward, and he set up the second goal for Mora as well. So. No, we just before half time, I thought that there was I was going to say 5 to 10 minute period where we got control of the game, and we took that into the second half. And at 2-2, we were the team that should have gone on and at least got a point and not lost the game. And that's the disappointment. And we've got to learn fast, because we're coming out of games thinking we've done well and actually lost games of football. And that's what this league is. This league is brutal, and it punishes you. And we've got to learn fast how to defend and how to keep concentration.
What was your thoughts on the third goal? Because if there was a third goal coming in the game, I thought it was going to come for you guys.
So did I. We switched off on the right hand side, and we put fresh legs on out there, and we switched off on the right hand side, and we allowed a cross to come in across our goal, and it seemed like a melee in there, and they scored, and that was the disappointment, because I don't think, apart from a couple of long range shots, we controlled the whole second half. But you can't concede goals in this league and win games of football.
The gaffer's there, and Phil Neville, very open and honest about his team. Unacceptable. And I mean, he's a guy that's played in some big derby games over the year, and he knows the attitude that you need to have to. And he didn't like what he saw from his team in the first half. The tweaks he made at half time. I mean, I've been critical of what I think of Phil Neville as a coach. I'm still surprised he got this Portland job, I'll be totally honest with you. But I've liked what I've seen from him this season. I've watched some of his interviews and stuff as well, and he's surprised me in a good way. Mm-hmm. You've got the likes of Chris Armis that I wasn't expecting much from, and I know they got a win today that we'll cover in a sec, but it's like, I still feel he's more detrimental to a very good Colorado team. So it's going to be a testing time for Phil Neville, but there's some quality players on that team, but defensively, last week against Philly, and this week against us, that looks like the area they really need to strengthen.
Yeah, for sure. Which you think Phil Neville would be able to help them with.
Well, that's exactly the thing. It's like he's a defender watching that, so he's going to know what is needed.
Yeah, which I think, if I remember right, the defensive stuff at Miami was also a bit of an issue for him. But Portland, I think, is one of those teams this year in MLS that has the ability to do well if everyone's kind of clicking. Mm-hmm. But if you have a game like tonight where you're giving up 3 goals that you shouldn't, 3 plays where you can see massive defensive errors, you're not going to win those games. And if they have too many of those, then that could be the difference between them being in the playoffs and not in the playoffs.
From a Whitecaps point of view, a lot of positives from this. I thought, aside from the 2 goals, defensively they looked good, and I'm liking the back 3 still. Bjorn, very fitting. Talk about Bjorn because a song that we've got coming up later, but it's like he looks good coming in for Laborda. It's a nice switch. I still liking what Laborda's doing. Blackman for me has maybe been the slightly weakest of the 3, if you're going to single someone out. The midfield's starting to click a little bit. If anyone gets the chance, watch the post-game interviews. I'm assuming the Whitecaps will have put these up with Ali Ahmed and Fafa Pico. the relationship the two of them have. It was hilarious, the post-game stuff, because Felipe had just asked Ali about his relationship with Fafa just as Fafa came in the room. So they seem to get on really well, and Fafa's kind of like a mentor to Ali. Ali joked that's because Fafa's been in the league for 25 years already. But just the whole banter and the relationship between them, it shows you what this squad is just now and how tight it is. And this is a very likeable Whitecaps team. It's the players, it's good personalities. There's no cliques. Fafa was talking about it as well. He says, yeah, some of us are close and we're in groups, but we mingle, and there's no cliquiness there. And we've not had that here before. That's been a bit of a downfall to us. And hopefully that will then lead to things going forward. Right now, it's got the team looking good, as I mentioned, sitting second in the West, just 2 points behind LA Galaxy, 10 points from their 5 games played. The Galaxy, 12 points from their 6 games played. The Galaxy's latest game was a 1-0 win over Seattle tonight, with a winning goal coming 4 minutes in. Now, because we're recording this on Saturday night, haven't really had a chance to watch tons and tons of stuff. I did watch this goal, and it was absolutely horrible goalkeeping by Stephen Fry. Gabriel Peck's shot should not have ended up in the back of the net, but it did. But another big win for the Galaxy, seeing them out on top, and another loss for Seattle. If we just kind of go over the other results from the West this weekend, just very, very quickly, because as I say, we haven't really had a chance to watch tons of it. I did watch the Colorado LAFC game though this afternoon, and I've got to say, LAFC looked comfortable in this, and I don't quite know how they threw this away. They led from the 8th minute with a beautiful finish from Atuesta, and then
great strike.
Oh, tremendous stuff. Bombito tied it up for Colorado, and then Martinez just put them ahead in the 76th before then getting sent off. Jordi Mihailovic, though, had tied things up in the 83rd with a nice free kick, and then got the winner for Colorado in the 89th minute. And afterwards, in his post-game thing, apparently said, finally I scored. So it's obviously been something that was on his mind. But as I was watching this game, when LAFC were leading, I couldn't help but think to myself, what a good Colorado team this is, that does feel that Armas isn't getting the best out of it. Now, maybe this is going to be the turning point for them that sees them push on. But I'm quite happy that they took the 3 points from this from a Whitecaps perspective, because you know LAFC is going to start to come good. It looks like Olivier Giroud is going to be coming in the summer. Huge addition for them. They've added Kai Kamara. Is 11th club.
Yeah.
More clubs than Tiger Woods. That's
if you're Hugo Lloris, you should never be beaten on that free kick, though.
No. That was nice struck, but yeah.
I don't think he fully saw it, but
he's an old man now.
Yeah.
But
I still don't fully understand that, but
I mean,
going old.
Kai Kamara got a 20-minute run out, and he's 1 goal shy of equaling Landon Donovan, and then 2 goals from moving second in the all-time MLS scorers. And you do wonder, does that factor into any of it? It's like, oh, let's have an LAFC guy overtake Landon Donovan, the LA Galaxy guy.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I do as well. I love Kai, and I'm glad he's still in the league. Glad he's still scoring goals. I genuinely would still have taken him back here. The way it ended here, I don't think that was ever going to happen. But imagine having him as your guy that comes off the bench.
It would be nice.
With the players that we've got just now, and then the odd start from him as well. I mean, that feels like a piece that would really push Vancouver forward. I mean, you wonder how much playing time we'll see when Giroud comes, but Giroud, Boanga, Atuesta. It's very exciting from LAFC, but right now they're sitting in ninth in the table.
Yeah, it's crazy the difference between them and the Galaxy, right?
Yeah. This is why I feel like the Whitecaps getting these points on the board early is going to be massive.
Huge, yeah.
Because we know there's going to be additions in the summer elsewhere.
Even with Seattle being as horrible as they've been at the beginning of the season, you know that they're going to come good or partially good or good enough, right?
Well, I mean, Minnesota had been leading the way in the West. They went down 2-0 to Philly, and I watched this game as well this afternoon. And Philly looked good, but Minnesota had tied it up, they thought. And then it got ruled out for offside. And then Philly just went up the pitch and got the crucial second. So, I mean, they're still looking a good team, Minnesota. SKC, I watched a little bit of SKC Toronto. They kind of schooled TFC a little bit here. It was a really good performance. 3 second-half goals from KC. Osorio got one back for TFC at the death, but Kansas were very worthy winners in this one. And TFC, of course, now coming to Vancouver next week, and they'll be doing so without Insigne, who is out for 6 weeks, which will probably disappoint a few of the Italians that I'm sure bought tickets for that game. I don't know what to expect from next week's game. I think it's going to be very defensive from TFC, and they're going to be asking Vancouver to try and break them down, and that's not how Vancouver thrive sometimes in these games. They've struggled in games like this.
It's true. It is going to be really interesting. It's also, I'm looking forward to seeing how Herdman kind of handles things, and even maybe the reception that he gets.
Yeah, that will be interesting. From speaking to some Toronto media, he seems to, or TFC are really not putting him up a lot. He speaks very little. They put him up for the scrums, but he doesn't talk too long at them. And you wonder, is it because he doesn't want to be kind of picked on specific things? Or, I don't know, I just find that interesting. I mean, if you look at the stats from today against KC, Kansas City outshot them, and they had 10 shots on goal to TFC's 2. Now, 2 shots on goal in a home game where you're chasing the game for a lot of the second half is
not good.
Not great. And I do think they're going to come here next week, try and be defensive, try and make us break them down. Now, we've got the players to do it, but we have struggled in the past in games like that. So that'll be an interesting thing to ask Vanni during the week as to if he thinks it's going to go that way as well, and does that affect maybe his tactics or his personnel choice for it? Because, like Fafa, just going back to him, he definitely feels like a player that can unlock this Toronto defence.
Yeah, I think his pace and his movement will be beneficial for that. How long is Brian White out for? That's the one thing we
don't know yet. So he was in concussion protocol. He was doing some training off to his side this week, but there was no way he was ever going to be playing. He's had various symptoms from his concussion over the course of the week, and I would hope that he's back for next week. Do you risk starting him when he's coming back from a concussion? I don't know. But Damir Kreilach again looked a little bit slow out there. And we did miss White for I know sometimes he's a lot of chances to score, but he finds himself in the right place at the right time more often than not.
Well, didn't Kreilach play in the ball from kind of a deeper role for the opening goal or second goal?
Yeah.
Or maybe he was the one off the crossbar. I can't remember.
I think it was the first one.
He made some contributions, right?
Oh, no, he did. Yeah. But he just didn't have that pace.
The pace is, I know, a very, very concerning thing, for sure. But
yeah. Ryan Gold, he has a partnership with O'Neill Sportwear, which is an Irish sports brand. So there's a fun video up on Instagram of them just asking him various questions. And one of the questions was, which Whitecaps player would you trust your life with to score a goal? And he said Brian White, and I was like, "Oh, hope you have 9 lives, Ryan."
You're hilarious, Michael.
just to finish off our Western roundup, Austin won a Texan derby. And I was thinking, you probably have a Texan derby about every single week.
Yeah.
The way things are going. But yeah, it's a good win for Austin. They went behind as well. They came back and Rubio got the winner in the 70th minute. Haven't seen any highlights from this as well, but they needed that. Josh Wolf needed that.
Yeah.
And Houston, talking to the Texan teams, came from behind as well to get a 2-1 win. When I left to go down to the game, they were down 1-0 to a first minute goal, but then 2 players sent off for San Jose, but 2 goals for Houston, 81st, 85th minute, got the win. A draw would have been a nice one there, but ultimately, yeah, Houston get the win. And the last game that we will talk about in the West, RSL, last week's conquerors over the Whitecaps, a big 3-1 win over St. Louis, and a nice hat-trick for Chicho Arango, I should say.
Yeah.
And St. Louis took the lead in this, and then Chicho hat-trick in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, which I think Mascherani will feel kind of like you just said in terms of like they need to get these points early on the board because there's going to be other teams that kind of hunting them and teams like the Whitecaps down, I think, further the season goes on.
Yeah. What I've liked from RSL, I mean, I was very impressed with their ball movement last week, but they have been very strong in second halves this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something the Whitecaps really need to kind of add a bit to them. I know they got the winner tonight in the second half, but they need to be a lot more consistent between the two halves. They've been looking good in first halves and not so hot in the second. But I mean, right now, sitting second, RSL sitting third, also on 10 points, but they have played an extra game as well. Minnesota in fourth, Houston in fifth, Kansas City in sixth, and there's just 1 point separating second to sixth. Colorado move up to seventh with that win. Portland in eighth and LAFC in ninth. St. Louis just outside the playoff spots in 10th. Austin move up to 11th. Dallas in 12th with 3 points. San Jose in 13th with 3 points. And Seattle, 2 points now from 5. No wins on the board. -3 goal difference. Oh, you love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw something with all the prognosticators from MLS talking about how they all had like Seattle, which I think we did too, like, you know, first or second in the West.
Yeah. I mean, I still think they'll rise up. I think with looking at what LAFC are going to be doing, I think LAFC is going to be favourites now for the West. But these points on the board, crucial to get early on. I mean, we've seen before Dallas, a team that gets points on the board early, and sometimes they still fall out the playoff race, but often or not, they still make it in, and a lot of it is because of those early points.
Totally.
Obviously, it's still very early stages throughout MLS, but in the MLS West, I think there's a lot of movement that we are going to see over the coming weeks and months. It's going to go down to the wire. It's going to be a conference where I think there's going to be so much to play for going into the last game of the regular season. And although it is early, we thought we would get Vanni Sartini's thoughts on the Western Conference so far. So I asked him that before the Portland game in his midweek press conference. Here's what he had to tell me of what he's made of the MLS West in the first 5 or 6 weeks.
So the fact that there's a lot of teams close to each other, of course, the league has just started, but I think it's going to be like this till the end of the league, because it's always like this. It's always kind of a dogfight between position 3 and 11th, something like this. So that's it doesn't surprise me, because we know how hard it is to win on the road. We know how hard it is to win in a row in this league. So, you know, it's not thinkable for me to have 3 teams that are going to do, or maybe 5 teams that are going to do more than 60 points, and then the other, no. You will always need around between 50 and 55 to go in the top 4, something like this. The team that surprised me the most in terms of improvement than last year in our conference is the Galaxy. I think the Galaxy are playing, the newcomers are having an effect, and you start to see when they have the ball the same kind of ideas when the old Toronto, the old Greg Vanni ball when they have the ball. Like if they consider a lot of goals defensively, it's true, but offensively they are really a threat.
Vanni Sartini there, just sharing his thoughts on the MLS West so far. So, another derby coming up next week. Looking forward to that. We'll continue the Whitecaps and MLS chat and bring you the first song from our new album of the month here at AFTN after this.
Hi, I'm Rainer Pozo, and you're listening to the AFTN Show.
When the hoodoo comes, you better run. It don't miss nothing when the hoodoo comes. When it does, it makes no exception. When the hoodoo comes, you better run for protection. When the hoodoo comes, when it does, it makes no exception at all. I travel far and wide with a message as I roam. Tonight the guiding star delivered the warning. It lives in every heart. It stands at every door. Make sure the light is on if somebody's calling. When the hoodoo comes, you better run. It don't miss nothing when the hoodoo comes. When it does, it makes no exception. When the hoodoo comes, you better run for protection. When the hoodoo comes, when it does, it makes no exception at all.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. Brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. And kicking off this part, it's a new month. You know what that means. It's a new album of the month here at AFTN. And we've gone back to 1989 for this month. Not very well known, I don't think, English band called Diesel Park West. We've played a couple of their songs on the podcast over the years. This is their debut album that we're featuring this month. It's called Shakespeare, Alabama. Only reached number 55 in the UK charts, but it's been an album that I got it upon its release. It's one of those albums that I've got both as vinyl and CD. I like it so much. A lot of my favourite ones I do like to do that with and have them on both versions and keep both versions as the collector stroke hoarder that you could say that I am. But this was an album that I just loved the songs on it. I thought they were so well crafted. And hopefully you will enjoy our selection of songs from the album that we bring you this month. It's a band that were formed originally in 1980, and they are still going strong in 2024. They've released 14 albums in total, 9 studio albums. The first one being Shakespeare, Alabama in 1989, and the last one to date being released in July 2022, called Not Quite the American Dream. They come from Leicester in England, and the song that we heard there to kick off their residency this month at AFTN was the first single to be released from the album. Technically, I say that because it was the band's debut single, released in 1987. It did get a re-release once the actual album came out in 1989. It's track 6 on Shakespeare, Alabama, and the song is When the Hoodoo Comes. Back to the football chat now, and back in the dugout, back on the sideline this week was, of course, Vanni Sartini. We heard some of his post-game thoughts in part 1, and it was quite a long post-game presser for him. It went on for about 14 minutes, and he joked at it that he's got 4 weeks of pent-up stuff that he wants to say to get out there, so that was why it was so long. That was why some of it was so funny, the stuff that he was saying. But I mentioned it on last week's show that in last week's midweek press conference that Vanni had before the RSL game, he was talking about how watching the games from the stands has given him a kind of whole new perspective on it. And it's something that he might consider doing a little bit during the season, not necessarily always being in the dugout for every single game. So that really intrigued me. It really piqued my interest. I kind of followed up on that this week. So, but we'll play Vanni's initial comments on that, and then just me kind of probing him a little bit further as to what that might mean. Here's the gaffer again.
The other thing is that, it's clear that you watch the game in a much better position if you're upstairs than if you are down. And, it's kind of difficult culturally for soccer to say that the head coach is gonna be upstairs the entire time, even when he's not suspended and everything. But maybe you can take it for the future, something like this to do, like kind of sometimes looking at from the game from upstairs, the first half, and maybe the second half going down. I don't know. But that for sure gave the possibility to see two things in a different perspective.
You touched on this last week. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about it, because it was interesting to me that you spoke about how you see the game a little bit different when you're not on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And I know that is something from when I first started going to watch games in the press box, and you're seeing it up high.
Yeah.
You do get a different perspective. And you talked about maybe you'd spend some time not down by the sidelines. Were you being serious about that?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, it does give you a whole different aspect.
Yeah, I was being serious. I gotta be honest between me. I was being serious, and I'm thinking about it, maybe doing it in the away game, not in Vancouver, for a bunch of reasons. I think that in Vancouver, it's very important also the energy that the fans give it to you, and the energy that they kind bounce off. You guys know that I'm a pretty extroverted person that take energy from other person, then can give to the team, and also a very because the idea would be kind of to be maybe the first half upstairs and then the second half downstairs. And if you are in Vancouver, maybe when you come down at the end of the first half, people are gonna stop you because they recognize you. So that would be a problem. But for sure, it's something that I'm thinking about for some games on the road.
So Vanni Sartini there, just chatting about what we touched on last week, Zach. How he does like watching the games from not just back on the touchline, and as he told me there midweek, he is planning on, for away games, maybe not all, but certainly some away games, of watching a half from the stands and then going down. So I'm very intrigued by that. I quite like it, and I'm curious then to see what Vanni's thoughts are on it, but it's certainly an interesting one.
There was one coach I thought that did that for a while. Someone maybe like Sam Allardyce or something. They would watch the first half from higher up and go down into the dressing room, whatever, at halftime, and then watch the rest of it from the touchline.
But I mean, as he said,
it might not have been Big Sam, might have been someone else, but
he doesn't want to do it for home games because he kind of feeds off the energy of the crowd. And with away games, you don't have that, so you can be a little bit more, and you've always got the earpiece that you can communicate and stuff. So I'm keen to watch this. I'm curious by that. But of course, Vanni, not the only person back this week. Their refs were back as well. It's just like the old days. Vanni's back. The MLS refs are back. And on Tuesday, the Professional Referee Organisation, PRO, and Professional Soccer Referees Association, the PSRA, finalised a new collective bargaining agreement. And it was rumoured it was going to happen. The big surprise for me, though, Zach, is it covers 7 years, 2024 through to 2030. That seems a very long CBA.
Not crazy long. Maybe longer than what they've done in the past.
Well, it's the longest they've ever had in MLS. But I don't know. It just felt a long time. A lot can change in 7 years in the game.
I just remember what all the issues they've had with the players, right? Where the deals have only been like 2 or 3 or 4 years or whatever, and then it's caused the major issues for the league, right? So I think there's a good reason to try and get this kind of done in as big a way or for as reasonably long a time as possible.
Yeah, the Athletic ran a piece this weekend where they spoke anonymously to various folk connected with it, and some referees not happy with the agreement. They think they could have got more, they could have got better. But a lot of the kind of, and it's like a lot of the players and the coaches, they said they needed this. They had to get these refs back because there had been some pretty bad performances out there. And I haven't seen a lot of the weekend's action, but I didn't see anything that you're like, oh, don't want them back. Everything felt like it went quite smoothly. I thought on the whole, Alan Chapman in the Whitecaps Timbers game had a decent game out there.
Yeah, I think so. And typically he's been one of the better.
I do like Alan Chapman. The MLS EVP of Sporting Product and Competition, Nelson Rodriguez, after the agreement was signed, said, MLS has some of the best match officials in the world. I'm not sure I would go that far. But you've got to big them up. But on the whole, they seem happy with it. And Mark Geiger from Pro said that the 7-year term provides enhanced pay and benefits for all officials and the stability that will support the growth of the professional game in the US and Canada. And we've banged on about this on the show. They need to invest in referees. They need to, in Canada in particular. It's like, I know money is very tight, as we're not going to touch on it on this, but we'll talk about it soon. Kevin Blue today talked about the deficit that Canada Soccer is going to have, and they need to get more money in, and they need to get money in for things like training refs and bringing through the new generation, the next generation. And you can't have games without refs.
No, you're right. And refereeing at the development or youth ages and stuff is not an easy thing. But yeah, there needs to be good pathways and good training and good opportunities and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, Michael, if the Geiger counter says it's good, it's got to be good.
Oh, it's got to be good. And we do still hope to sit down with Darnell and chat about refereeing at some point. It's just been so busy that to try and get that done. So we will get that done at some point this year. Just to round off this part, I'm going to bring you a couple of interviews we did post-game. Myself and Har caught up with a couple of Canadians from the other side of the tracks. Portland Timbers, Max Crepeau and Kamal Miller. We'll start things off with Kamal before everyone else turns the podcast off because they don't want to hear from Max. But it's good for Canada, I think, having Kamal Miller and Max Crepeau playing together, getting that chemistry going. Obviously, you'd maybe like to see them a non-rival of the Whitecaps, but it can only benefit Canada. It can only benefit the two of them. Maybe not from the performances that we saw tonight defensively, but Canada now heading to Copa. Big achievement for them. What does Kamal Miller make of that? And also, what did he make of the game tonight? First of all, we'll ask you about the game. What did you make of that? It was a good second half performance. You really came back into it. Looked like you were the team that was going to get the winner. How did you see all that play out?
Yeah, just the highs and lows of the games, the feelings after the game, tough. Felt like 2 soft goals in the first half. We were very down on ourselves at halftime, but we knew we could turn it around because what we put out in the first half, that's not us. So we knew if we played our game, we could definitely get back into the game, tied it up, and we were pushing for the win. We had all the confidence that we can go on and get to 3 points, but fell short in the end. And another soft goal. We got to defend better for Max. He doesn't deserve that. And yeah, we'll just keep moving. Hopefully, it's just growth and lessons for our fairly newly assembled team. A lot of new pieces, still getting into it. But yeah, I think we showed what we can do.
Compare and contrast this season with Portland with last season. What's been the difference? How have your first few months in Portland been? Tell me about that.
It's been great. It's been great. Everyone in Portland has accepted me very well. I feel very welcomed at the club. Overall, it's been a positive experience on and off the field. I think we're building and getting better every game. Just got to put together the results now. We started off hot and kind of cooled down a little bit. So now it's just about getting the results because we can play well, put together good football, have all the possessions, but all that matters is the 3 points. So Vancouver won't care about how the game looked. They're just moving up the table, and that's what we want. We deserve that.
Kamal, you're a Canadian, Max is Canadian, the women's team in Portland, lots of Canadians.
Yeah.
How is it being a part of little Canada in Portland with the men's team and the women's team there?
It's great. It's great. Portland feels like another part of Canada, honestly. Just the atmosphere. Everyone is so nice and polite, friendly, great vibes just walking up and down the street. You really feel welcomed and inclusive, kind of like how Canada is. And yeah, having the women's team there is great. I went to the Thorns home opener, so I'll be going there cheering on the Canadian women. I know they come to our games as well, so hopefully both teams can just do very well and represent Canada well.
What kind of coach is Phil? Because we know he was with Miami, he was coaching the England women's team.
Yeah.
What kind of stamp has he come in and put on Portland for those that maybe don't know him? Obviously you know him a little bit from his time with Canada.
Yeah, he's a great coach, honestly. Both on and off the field, you can see the type of football we're playing, controlling the game, creating big chances, on top of teams. Our last 2-3 games, maybe we should have came out with at least a draw in each of the games. So it's tough. Off the field, he was a player as well, top player, so he knows exactly what we need and exactly how to get through to the players. So on and off, it's been a great experience working with Phil, and I know it's just a matter of time before we get rolling and start to be one of the top teams in the West.
Okay, let's talk highs. Let's talk Canada. Fantastic win. You're going to Copa. First game against Argentina, reigning world champions. What does this mean to you on a personal level, and what does it mean to the group to have this opportunity now?
Yeah, it means everything. Just for our name to be involved in that prestigious tournament, playing with some of the best teams in the world, leading up to the World Cup. This is all part of the development. We have to play these tough teams to really test ourselves. We got to go in confident that we can get the job done. And looking at our group, I think we can surprise a lot of people and get out of that group.
Does Argentina have any good players?
A few that we got to watch out for, but no, they're world champs for a reason. So all the respect to Argentina for sure. We know we're gonna get their best game. We just got to go in with that underdog mentality and yeah, do our best to shock the world.
So Kamal Miller there. very excited about being in Portland. We chatted a little bit after we recorded there, and I said, have you headed down the Oregon coast yet? And he's like, I've not had a chance yet, but everyone's telling me I have to go. And I was like, oh, my favourite place in the world, you've got to go down. And he just spoke how he feels it's like being in Canada. He feels Portland it's almost like Canada. I still hope that you can have Cascadia and I can make my move to the Oregon coast, but he's loving life down there, as is the other, or one of the others, because there's James Pantemis as well. Max Crepeau is also feeling right at home. He's used to the Pacific Northwest, of course, but he made the move to Portland this off-season. Har and myself caught up with Max after the game tonight as well to chat about that move to Portland and also Canada going to Copa. So, Max, qualified for Copa. What does that mean to you on a personal level, and what does it mean to the team to be at this tournament, to have this opportunity to play against some of the best players in the world?
Yeah, I mean, it was really important for us to get these games this year to prepare the World Cup. Obviously, that was our standard, our objective as a group. We failed to do it against Jamaica, and we had redemption. And it's not every day that you'll get a second chance to do it. And so we were aware that we needed to get results and play against nations that has lived and has experienced in World Cup's moment, and obviously Copa America is the next level and the next gear. Obviously Argentina is World Cup champion at the moment, world champion, and we have a chance to play Netherlands as well in Netherlands, June 6th if I'm standing correct.
Scotland just got hammered by them, so hope
I
you
know,
do better.
I saw 4-0, and then Peru and Chile are two nations that are well respected as well, even though they are in a change of generations, but it's high quality, and so for us it was important to get these games to prepare the group for 2 years now.
The goalkeeping unit with Canada, it's so strong. Obviously Milan's been the number one for years. Everyone's thought you're going to be the guy that's going to take over. Do you feel that pressure? Do you feel the pressure to perform when you do get that number one jersey?
No, I mean, a couple of vets wasn't part of the group this time, and so it gives an opportunity to others to step in that gap in that position. And so for me to do it against Trinidad and looking forward, it's my personal goal, and I can fill that gap. I can fill that position. Obviously, we have a fantastic group with Dane, Joe, James, Tom, Miguel. We have a quality and youth as well as a goalkeepers group. But for me, it's about performing. It's about getting it done for club and country.
The move to Portland, I think it surprised a lot of people, because I think a lot of us thought you were going to go overseas. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to stay in MLS in the end, and why Portland?
Yeah, going overseas is interesting, where all the teams are in mid-season, and it's not. You don't have a lot of teams out there looking for goalkeepings, because when they are mid-season, what's their position in the money space? Where how much do they have to spend and such? And I'm getting 30 now. I'm going to get 30, and so a lot of people has goalkeeping in their club right now. Coming up, and so for me it was a couple positions in the league, a couple talks, of course, and then after a moment to reflect on it, Portland was the decision.
What do you like about being in Portland? Obviously, Phil from your time with Canada. He had a spell there. Obviously, you've played in the Northwest. The climate, the bit of the people in the area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Phil, I wasn't fit enough when it was a Gold Cup, and so I wasn't ready to play again. I was still in my rehab process, but I heard great things about him, and we talked a couple times before this decision was made. And so, we love Portland. My family as well. We're in a good neighborhood as well, and so now it's about getting it done on the field. And It's early days in the season. We have to tune up. We have a lot of quality. There's a lot of potential, but at the end of the day, we have to clean up defensively and offensively.
How has it helped you having Kamal there? Obviously, the Thorns have a lot of Canadians with their organization. Has that helped? Is that any factor? Do you kind of have a benefit with having more Canadians in the area?
I mean, when I took the decision, it wasn't a factor coming in there, you know.
Nice.
It's nice, but it is what it is, you know.
Okay, you come back to here. We know the fans are on you. How do you feel about that? I think they're going to boo you for the rest of your career.
Yeah, they can do it. I don't mind, you know. They love their club. They love their club. Some people accept the fact that it's football, that sometimes you move on. I went, you know, it was a lot. Long story short, I went to LA. For football reasons, because back then the Whitecaps was still in the rebuild phase, and right now they're getting the flowers of that rebuild. And so I wanted to get silverware, and it was a good place for my family as well.
Fans have not crossed the line, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, well, it's fans, you know, it's football. You hear it all.
Merci.
Really.
Thanks, Mark. Now, I know there's going to be folk listening to this probably giving their 2 middle fingers to Max or turning it off, fast forwarding through this, not listening to him. I still have a lot of time for Max. I appreciate everyone's opinion on him. It still doesn't sit comfortably, some of the abuse that he gets. He is our national team starting goalkeeper, and he probably is going to be going forward. You never know what's going to happen, and other folk can push him, and he touched on it there. He doesn't feel the pressure in that, but he knows there's a really good group of goalkeeping talent with Canada just now. But both of them talking there, Zach, about how important it is for Canada to have got to Copa and this test that they've got. And they both feel that outside of the Argentina game, Chile and Peru are games that Canada can give a good account of themselves and maybe even advance from the group. Now, if they can get anything from those two games, I think that's a massive step forward for Canada.
Oh, yeah, totally. I just hope in the Argentina game they don't get like starstruck or give them too much respect, and they actually get stuck in and play football, because I think when Canada does that, they as they showed in moments in the 2022 World Cup, they can play with anyone. It's an exciting time for Canada, and exciting time if you're Kamal Miller and you're Maxime Crepeau and you have the opportunity to be a part of it, or you've had an opportunity to be a part of it. And I think especially for Max, with having to miss the World Cup due to the leg fracture and whatnot, that this is huge for him. And you know, he has his eyes and his heart and his whole being set on that 2026 World Cup on home soil, and being a bigger part of that as possible. And the Copa is part of the journey towards that. So, yeah, I like you. I have a lot of time for Max. I totally respect that I have friends who don't appreciate the way his time ended in the Lower Mainland, and again, I can respect that. But yeah, I have a lot of time for him, and I really hope that he can continue to progress and definitely play better than he did in this game against Vancouver for Canada.
It genuinely interests me. But with Canada playing World Cup games here, like what kind of reaction he's going to get. Now, there's obviously not just going to be Whitecaps fans at those games, but you hope everyone's going to be at least backing him for that, and not, as Har asked him there, are you going to get booed for the rest of your life here? I hope that isn't the case. It is a good move for both of them, and they both seem very happy in Portland just now. We'll try and speak to as many of the Canadian guys as they come through Vancouver as well this season, because you don't always get to do a lot of chatting with them. I want to thank Paloma as well from Portland for sorting those chats out with us after the game today, because they had a very quick turnaround after the match as well. But that is it for the Whitecaps chat. That is it for the MLS chat for this show. We're going to turn our attention to Vancouver FC next. We've got a couple of interviews to bring you, some fun chat as well. We'll be back with that and another song from our new album of the month here at AFTN after this.
How's it going, guys? I'm Ben Fisk. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
I heard the bell of hope today. Was it real? I couldn't say. It doesn't matter anyway. It was beautiful. I felt lost and blown away. No return from this place. There upon the table lay my 2 shoes. Now I'm looking at you, looking at me, looking at things that yesterday I couldn't believe. I woke on a bed of thorn. I was lost and forlorn. There was no joy, it was not available. You just play your strings and things for the virtue that they bring. I had the bell of hope and it was beautiful. And I'm looking at you, looking at me, looking at things that yesterday I couldn't believe. Like the bell of hope, bell of hope.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. Brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca, your one-stop shop for all your family legal needs based out of Surrey. They support us, go and support them. And kicking off this part, it's the second song from our album of the month that we're bringing you in this week's show. From 1989, Leicester band Diesel Park West, from their debut album Shakespeare, Alabama, and that is the third track, which for me was surprisingly not released as a single, because it's really one of, if not the strongest tracks on the album for me. The song there, Bell of Hope. And there's certainly a few bells of hope ringing around the football scene in Vancouver just now, with the Whitecaps in MLS and with Vancouver FC in the CPL, who have had a fantastic off-season rebuild ahead of the 6th CPL season that will kick off in a couple of weeks' time. And we're going to turn our attention to Vancouver FC now, as we bring you the first of 2 feature interviews in this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show, as we sit down with one of their more recent signings and a player very well kent here at AFTN, a player that did spend a little bit of time in the Whitecaps Academy up to the age of 15. We've known him for a very long time here at AFTN, had the pleasure of commentating on his games up at UBC when he was a Thunderbird, for TSS Rovers when he played with TSS in the old PDL, signed his first pro contract in 2019 with Pacific FC, spent 2 seasons over on the island, making 31 appearances and scoring 3 goals, before making the move out east to the new boys that were in the CPL at the time, Atletico Ottawa. 3 seasons spent there in the nation's capital, 59 appearances, 7 goals he got for them, before coming home for the 2024 CPL season, signing with Vancouver FC. The player in question is Zach Verhoeven, and he's certainly going to add a little bit of bite to that Vancouver FC attack, and another excellent piece added by Afshin Gotbi and the club this off-season. So I got a chance to sit down with Zach, myself and the other Zach, on Tuesday afternoon, just to chat about his move back to BC, signing for Vancouver FC for this season, and a little look at his journey and career so far. So go stick the kettle on, grab your biscuit of choice, sit back, and enjoy our chat with Zach Verhoeven. So, Zach, welcome back to Vancouver. It's been a little while since we spoke to you. I don't think we spoke to you at all when you were at Ottawa, but
no, I don't believe so.
Obviously, we've known you for like once you leave BC, you're like dead to us. So once you come back, it's like we'll
family
speak
again.
Yeah. I mean, how excited are you to be back in BC, but like back in Vancouver, your home city? I know Pacific, it's a BC team, but like speaking to some of the other guys that's been there, this feels different to them. Just how excited are you about this opportunity to actually play pro in Vancouver now?
Yeah, no, like I said earlier, I think just not having the opportunity growing up and like when the CPL started, I think just makes it that much more special because like I just never thought it would be possible. So family's huge for me. So just, every day just having my parents around, my grandparents like 5 minutes away. So I see them all the time in the mornings, like just small thing. I think I appreciate those small things more, like just being away from home for so long. So
Yeah.
that and also just of course the season, like to just have friends and like family, like to have like them all come together and celebrate something, is exciting for like my whole family and just to have us all together. So it's definitely special.
I mean, you guys turned out in numbers to cheer you on in the games at
Yeah.
Langley last year. So I
Yeah.
was speaking to David Norman's dad last week, and he was saying like for the home opener, there's over 30 folk come in, and he hopes to have lots at every game as well. I mean, it just to have that support in the stand as well, it must be really special.
No, it is. I mean, I think you should, as a professional, you should be up for any game, but I think it's just always should be in the back of your head that it's just a motivator. So yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting and just looking forward to it because usually it's like I only get what last year 2 games in front of all of them, maybe the Victoria game if they come out. So now for sure you get 14 games at home. So it's how can you not be excited for that,
True.
So
So let's talk about how this move came about then. So you had 3 seasons out in Ottawa. I like when the team was launched last year, like you were one of the guys I immediately thought of, oh, Zach's maybe going to come home. I mean, was that on the cards last year at any point? How did it come about this season?
no, I think last year I was with Ottawa for sure. But obviously with the team being launched, it was always, in the back of my mind that that is home. I think just conversations with the coaching staff and, of course, seeing a lot of familiar faces being part of the team and seeing who they're bringing in, I thought it was a really good opportunity. So,
And in a lot of ways, like when it's a new team, and obviously you had this with Pacific, the first year's always a tough year, just in general. And sometimes it's better to come to a club in the second year when they've got more experience and they're up and running. But you're on a team now this year. There's so much local guys. It's like really exciting to me and to others as well. Does it feel a little bit different in the locker room? I know at Pacific you had all the local guys as well, but does this feel a little different because you are all local?
no, I think it definitely feels, what's the word? I don't want to say comfortable, but it feels like natural. Like it feels natural. Like, a lot of guys from that Pacific team, like, especially for me, guys I grew up playing in the Whitecaps with, like, it's you already have a bit of that chemistry there and know how they want to play. So I think on and off the field that'll definitely go a long way. So yeah, I think it's been good. It's been really good so far.
Moving to Ottawa, in fact, even going to the island to sign your first pro deal, how much growing up do you feel you've done as a person in the last few years?
Oh, an insane amount to be fair. Like I think 2019, like the Zach back then compared to now is, I think as an individual only you know how much you've grown. So for me, off the field has been a lot. Especially that my second year having Pamaduka as a coach, like I had to do a lot of looking in the mirror and on and off the field. So just a lot of growth, and like I think living away from home is like one of the biggest things too. A lot of more responsibility. So I think those 2 years at Pacific was a lot of growing up, and then going to Ottawa, like that's the farthest I've been away from home. So that's when like, you really have to start growing up and understanding you're moving farther away from home now. Like you really got to take it serious. So tons of growth, I'd say, on and off the pitch.
I mean, obviously, I've known you for many, many years, and I still got lots of good memories of you back at UBC and with TSS and everything like that as well. And it's been great to see your career advance. I think one of the, maybe not criticisms, but one of the things that was always leveled at you at UBC, at TSS, was to try and get that consistency. Because we know what a great player you are, and when you're on your game, you're almost unplayable at times. Do you feel you found that a little more in the last few years, that your game is a lot more consistent now?
I say definitely, like, of course, from UBC and TSS, I think I didn't have to play both sides of the game as much at that level. And I think playing the professional level, like there were times I was playing right back or wing back, and that's going to teach you a lot about the game. So I think definitely like my overall game has improved. Consistent wise, I think that's something I'm trying to have a lot more this year as well. And I think just taking my opportunities, and yeah, I'm still constantly trying to grow. So
I know, watching you at Ottawa, I was impressed by how much work you've done on the defensive side of your game. Because I think it's fair to say at UBC you maybe didn't track back to
yeah.
defend, but then you didn't really need to because there was great defenders. But that element of your game in particular, you seem to have worked really hard at that side of it.
Yeah, I think like you were just saying, like when you don't have to do it, you can get away with those things. But once you hit the professional game and it's like if you don't do it, you're not going to play. I think that's when you have to make a decision of what you want, like.
Yeah.
So it's just I think maturing and growing as a professional and understanding that you need to do both sides of the game. So um yeah, I think it's a must really in the professional game. So it only made me a better player, I believe so.
Michael's touched a little bit on this, but like, if you could just talk a little bit, Zach, about your experience of kind of coming through, like Surrey United, the Whitecaps,
Academy, yeah.
TSS, Pacific Ottawa, now to Vancouver FC, like just your journey as a player, and
Mhm.
maybe even your perception growing up, because you originally growing up without a Canadian professional league for you to play in, and that coming on the horizon later. Yeah, just talk about your journey as a player.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I played up until Surrey United till I was around like I believe 10, and then I got the call to go to be part of the Whitecaps Academy. I went there and was there for 5 years. And I would say throughout those 5 years, especially towards the last 2 years, they were really trying to like mold you into a professional and get you ready for that next step. And at that time, I think I was still a kid and I wasn't fully invested in that. So, sorry, you guys can hear me? I think it's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So at that point, I got released at 15, and basically, I was at that point, I was still young, and like there's no professional league, and like to be honest, I didn't even like want to play Surrey United. Like the highest level was, I believe, HPL at that time. And I was back in high school now, and basically all my friends for the past 5 years were advanced, and then a small portion of us got released. So I really didn't see a future in playing at a high level, because I thought I wasn't good enough, I guess, I'm only 15, I guess I wasn't. So I think I took a break for about almost 2 weeks and was thinking of playing lower level than HPL. And my dad basically kept me in it and said like you're too good to play that level. So I think after like 2 weeks of just, being a baby basically, like I just went back to Surrey United. and I think like those I had 2 or 3 years there, and I think that was meant to be for me because it was really like bringing the love of the game back for me.
Mm.
Went from like very high, like what's the word, like high standards, like like high standards at the Whitecaps of being a professional, and me still being a bit younger. Like I think it just really helped me enjoy the game. So I had a really good 2 3 years there, and then got the scholarship to UBC. Those are three of my best years there as well. Like, just got to enjoy the game, love the game. Mike gave me a lot of belief and had good 3 years there. And yeah, when the CPL started in 2019, it was, I think, 2018. I was with TSS, and I remember Colin and Will saying, "Hey, like CPL starting next year, like there's actually an opportunity." And I remember finally in 2018, it hit me like I should actually start training really hard here and maybe try and get a contract. And then things just worked out the way they did. Got drafted, and as soon as I got in that professional environment, I remember speaking with the coaches and saying I want to fully commit.
Mhm.
So, and I never looked back since then. So that's
Yeah.
basically.
That's really cool to hear. And I think like, yeah, these are your story and there's others, but your story I think is helpful for like young people or parents or whatever to hear the kind of the ups and downs of the potential pathways to professionalism, right? It's not a straight line for everyone, right? It works out in different ways.
No, for sure.
Yeah, you are like a tricky, pacey winger, right? With incredible dribbling skills, which you displayed at the end of the game there on Wednesday night.
Yeah, that was a lovely goal on Wednesday night. That's the
Yeah.
Zach Verhoeven we know and love.
I wish Michael was commentating over it. He would have had a big,
Oh, so do I.
you're Zach Verhoeven.
So what do you where do you see yourself fitting in with Vancouver FC now? With your abilities, with your talents.
Yeah, no, I obviously would love to play a big role for us this year, and I think it just comes down to just every day. I think I've learned as a professional, it's just every day controlling what you can and just giving your best. And if the coaches feel fit to play me whatever way is, I'm just gonna do my best. Of course I want to play a big role, but I think it's just earning it every day. So I'm just focused on that really at this point. And we got a game tomorrow, so.
Yeah. Is your preference to be that like out there on the left wing? Is that like
Yeah,
whatever formation you
my
want to play?
preferred size left wing, but left or right, like in the last game he had me on the right, switch to the left. So, to have that that belief to play on either side is I think only beneficial for
Yeah.
me. So
And can you talk a little bit about the competition in the
Yeah.
Vancouver squad? Obviously, you faced it in Ottawa in different ways and Pacific like as well, but the competition at Vancouver FC this year it's like night and day compared to last season for the club. I just wonder if you could talk about your perception of
yeah.
that.
No, I think the best answers is just what repeating what kind of Moses said of just like competition is always going to push you. I don't think you ever want to have the mindset of, oh, these guys aren't good enough, so I just get to play. That's going to make you feel comfortable. So just pushing each other, and at the end of the day, we're trying to win as a team. So it's a long season. So if something happens and next guy needs to step up, that's why you have a deep squad. So I think it'll be good. I think it'll be really good for all of us to push each other. So.
Yeah. When I think Michael talked about that earlier, but when you scored that goal for Ottawa last year and your entourage erupted, it was very loud. Is there like any kind of internal competition this year? I know Michael talked about David Norman, but is there any internal competition to see who can get the most like family members and friends into the stadium for this year? Because it feels like obviously the primary goal of Rob Friend and the ownership group is to build the best squad as possible. But with the high influx of local players, it also seems likely that this is going to also help attendance because there's people who know you, who care about you, who long to see you play, who maybe it has been as easy to see people like yourself play over the years.
Yeah.
To get them into the stadium to support. Is there any kind of internal gentle competition about who can get the most?
No, I don't think so. At this point, I think everyone's just excited to bring everyone together. I think I have teammates like Caden and David Norman, like who I said who I've grown up with in the Whitecaps. So maybe our parents knew each other back then, and we're on different teams now. So I think to see everyone's parents and family come together and be able to see each other again would just be exciting. So I don't think it's necessarily competition, but I think it's just yeah, I think we're building a good community here. So.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good to hear.
I,
Mhm.
I know I asked you this right off the bat, and I don't actually think we got to the answer of it, but if you did
What was
say
that?
this, I apologize if I missed it, but when did you know you were going to be coming to Vancouver?
Uh, I think it was sometime after the season, be like 1 or 2 months maybe, because
Okay.
the discussions were going on for a bit, and yeah, it didn't get announced till a while, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was just the discussions were going on, but I think I knew fairly early.
Because I heard there's a trialist named Zach, and I didn't clue in that it was you because I assumed you, I didn't know your contractual situation and stuff, so I just
Mhm.
assumed I never thought of you because I didn't think you were a possibility. And then
Mhm.
someone was like, "Oh, a trial is Zach scored a goal." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then I saw you playing, and I was like, "Oh, now I know who they're talking about."
Yeah.
Just to ask you about your time at Ottawa,
Hmm.
because I don't think I think I spoke briefly to Ben Fisk when he was first there, but that was just when they were starting off. What was it like being in that organization, obviously with the close ties to Atletico Madrid and going over to Spain for pre-season and stuff? What was that whole experience like?
Mhm.
No, they took really good care of us as a club, and I think one of the biggest things for me was going to preseason in Spain all 3 years. Um, I think just being a local boy and only seeing what football's like in Canada, I think to see what it was like in Spain and to see the different levels, playing fourth division, third division sides who are very good shows you like, you gotta improve your game as well. So I think that was big for me. And of course just seeing the country of Spain and just
Mm.
going to watch an Atletico Madrid game. Like before that I think I've only seen like a Whitecaps game. So, that was special. So I think yeah, the football side and the culture side and yeah.
Did it give you a little taste for maybe at some point going to play over in Europe?
Yeah, I think again, I think the biggest thing for me is just seeing like the quality there and just having that to be a motivator to improve. And yeah, who knows where my career will take me, but I think just seeing that and understanding you need to be better, seeing like, wow, fourth division in Spain is very, some very good players. Like you're like,
Yeah.
wow, like,
Mhm.
so I think yeah, just use it to get better for myself.
I can get you into fourth division in Scotland, but that's maybe not quite the level you're looking at just now.
Yeah,
We're on
I
our
don't
way
know.
up though. So once we get up a couple of divisions, we'll get you over there. Last couple of things.
Sure.
This season, it's a very exciting team that is built. I'm looking forward to it. Got a little taste of things against the VMSL side. That was a game that it's hard to take too much from because you're playing against guys that some of them have a chip on their shoulder because they feel they should be in the league and they want to impress and stuff as well. But the quality throughout the team definitely looks a big improvement on last year. And obviously, I know you went with the team last year, but what's the feeling in the locker room about what this team can be this year?
Mhm.
No, I think a big thing comes with like the experience our group has. I think there's quite a lot of guys who've been in the league for a while now. So I think just knowing how the other teams are in this league and just especially for myself being here since the first year, I think experience goes a long way. So I think just the small details like the way guys come in and we do our routines and prepare for trainings and stuff. I think on paper we look like a really good squad. So I think it's just figuring things out. And I think we don't really have an excuse to not have a good year, I believe. So
There is a lot of experience now.
yeah.
Before we were chatting, I was like, how old is that now? And I looked and I was like, I can't believe you're 25. You're going to be 26 this year because
Yeah, I know,
I
right?
still picture folk from years ago and they don't age in my head and I still see it as the young guy. But I remember speaking to you at the end of the first season Pacific. It was the last game and it was at the end of it. And you were just loving every aspect of being a professional footballer and like fulfilling that dream that you had. And do you kind of have to pinch yourself that you've got this career that you looked for?
I feel like definitely very grateful for like being in this position, to be a professional. And I think that was always my dream as a kid, like to be a professional. As a small kid, that's always what I wanted. So I think when I look back and I think like, wow, like I actually accomplished that, I think it does make me feel really happy. But I think as a professional, it's not always like super like good all the time, and there's ups and downs. So I think yes, I'm very grateful for it, but definitely through the hard times, like need to look back and remember like as a kid, that's what you've always wanted, and it comes with the ups and downs. But definitely, very proud of myself, coming from, my story of the Whitecaps and UBC. Like I still think about all my UBC times and Rovers times. It's crazy to think that's like five,
Yeah.
almost 6 years ago. So, but yeah, definitely very proud, of my journey and to see where I can go now. So
Last thing, you've got a tough game coming up with Cavalry in the Canadian Championship, but if you win that, you can be playing the Whitecaps. What would that mean to you on a personal level to have a chance to play against the team that cut you as a 15-year-old?
Oh, I mean, I think it'd be great. Like, to be fair, like Canadian Championship, I believe I've never made it past the first round with a club yet. So, I mean, to advance in that tournament, of course, is a goal for us. We want to, win as much as we can this year. So, to play against the MLS side would be awesome to just see, how we can do against them. But I think it would be definitely cool for the family and friends, as well to go to BC Place and just experience that. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't get past the first round, we now know that you're a jinx, so that's okay.
Actually, I think last year with Ottawa, we may have made the second round, maybe.
Well, maybe I can't even remember that.
I believe we did. So
Oh well,
maybe.
so you're not then. That's okay. It's great to have you here. Looking forward to seeing you in the pitch, and if you can score some more goals like you did on Wednesday, you're gonna have the fans off their seats, I'm sure.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for your time as well.
Great stuff from Zach Verhoeven there. Really nice to catch up with him once again, and genuinely can't wait to see him on the pitch for Vancouver FC. We got a little bit of a taster of him in action when we saw him play against the VMSL All-Star side in last week's friendly. Talked about that on the last show. Got the winning goal, an absolute belter it was as well, as we chatted about there in the interview. We'll unpack a little bit of what Zach said there, chat about what it means to Vancouver FC's attack, and bring you our second interview of the podcast in the next part. And we'll do all of that after we take you back to 1974.
Hi, I'm Zach Verhoeven, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Almost repeating itself. What
welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, we've gone all the way back to 1974. And I'm sure people will have thought, we'll never hear ABBA on the AFTN Soccer Show. But there you've got it. Waterloo. Waterloo. I don't mind ABBA. When I was growing up, I hated them because in primary school, we always used to get to bring music records in on the last day of the term, and the teacher would play it. So I'd bring in all my punk stuff, and then the girls would bring in all their ABBA songs, and we had to have a good mix. And I didn't like disco, I didn't like ABBA, but I grew to really have an appreciation of ABBA over the years. Very, very talented band. And the reason that we've played them and their song Waterloo, April 6th, 1974. That's really the big breakthrough moment for them, Zach. It was the Eurovision Song Contest. ABBA won it for Sweden. This record had been released in January and did nothing, then got to the number one in the UK, across Europe, and ABBA became stratospheric. Are you an ABBA fan?
Yeah, fan would not be the correct term, but like you, I appreciate their contribution to the overall history of music.
I appreciate their contribution to the penalty shootout.
Yeah, do you like that format better?
I actually do. I quite like it. You're not a fan?
No, I think I haven't seen it done enough, but I think I probably would prefer to the traditional approach.
Yeah, I'd like to see it a bit more. I definitely want to stop stutter kicks as well.
Yes, were we talking about this week or?
I don't know. I can't
remember.
Yeah,
we were with the Poland. I
was going to say, oh yes! I was going to say, there was a game we were watching. Oh, I hate it. Yeah. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
And I understand during a game, if a team's given away a penalty, you're not meant to be helping the defence. But in a penalty shootout, it should be a level playing field. Goalkeepers should have a chance, and stutter steps just ruin that.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. I say that as someone who, like, I strongly appreciate Robert Lewandowski.
Yeah.
I don't like when he takes penalties, even though his conversion rate is very high.
Yeah. You wouldn't have had that, I tell you, in 1974. And it was a semi-busy week for the Whitecaps 50 years ago this week. If we look at the news in Whitecaps land in 1974 from April 1st to April 7th, the Vancouver Sun ran a story on Tuesday, April the 2nd, about the lack of players on the Whitecaps roster with just over a month before their inaugural season began. 6 players under contract with the Whitecaps ahead of their May 5th opener against San Jose, and 2 of those were injured. So because of that, the Whitecaps were really looking at local players and decided to have their 3rd trial training session. 24 local players who had shown up the week before were invited back this week for what was called serious training, with head coach Jim Easton convinced that the nucleus of the Whitecaps' inaugural squad, about 75% he felt, would be made up of these local players. He felt that would give the Whitecaps a great advantage because the guys were in good shape, they'd been playing all winter, and they just had to knock off the rough edges. What Easton wasn't really taking into account was that there maybe weren't top-level NASL players, and I think you saw that when the season did begin because the Caps struggled in that first year. Showing his commitment to the team, though, was goalkeeper Sam Newsom, who flew in from Bermuda to take in the training session before then flying back to Bermuda to prepare for an international match, ironically, against Canada. But big news came out on Wednesday, April the 3rd, 1974, when the P&E directors declined the Whitecaps' request to rearrange Empire Stadium's pitch. Whitecaps general manager Denny Veach had wanted the pitch to be a little bit changed so that it would bring the action closer to the fans. But the P&E directors felt that tampering with the field's tartan turf, as it was, would damage the $1 million artificial surface. That was something that Denivic was really pissed off about and felt that they weren't really understanding the need, and it wasn't looking to damage the surface, it was just trying to make it better for spectators. You already had a pitch that was marked out in BC Lions CFL markings, with the Whitecaps markings being in a blue paint, which was apparently very hard to see. The Whitecaps also weren't happy that they were going to be charged a minimum of $2,000 per game rent at Empire Stadium, which was the same as the BC Lions were paying. But Denivic was arguing that why should they be expected to pay the same as the Lions when they're not generating as much income as the Lions and they're just starting off. That request, though, was turned down by the P&E, which led to Denivic telling the Vancouver Sun that if this decision was not changed, the Whitecaps would basically have to fold because they wouldn't be able to afford to pay that. Now, things were changed down the line, which we'll come to at a future date. And as we know, the Whitecaps did not fold and did play that inaugural 1974 season. So from the past, let's fast forward 50 years and bring you right back up to date now with the football chat. In the last part, we heard from Vancouver FC new signing, Zach Verhoeven. And as I mentioned, very excited to see Zach taking the pitch in Vancouver, in his hometown. The Surrey boy setting foot out in the valley. It's going to be fun to watch. Such an exciting player, Zach, and as we talked about it, when he's on his game, at times he can be unplayable. And we've seen it in the CPL over the years. He has got a lot more consistent. And as we talked about there, he's added a defensive side to his game that we hadn't seen in the early part of his career. But it's another good addition by Afshin Goatby.
Yeah, it has the potential to be massive. Like they brought in some players who can score some goals and have records of scoring goals in this league. And so, yeah, and Zach, I mean, as he talked about, consistency is always an issue, you know, not for him, but for any player.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to make a full breakthrough to be an everyday kind of starter. And so that's what he's working on. And I like for him, though, even if he isn't that everyday starter at the beginning of the season, he's such a weapon off the bench. And then if he earns this starting role, hopefully he's a weapon from the beginning of games. You know, he scored at least a couple times in preseason already. And he is someone I think that could be in that like 5 to 10 goal range for them this year. That could be, you know, a difference maker.
Yeah. And you look at the attacking pieces and the competition. Well, I mean, the competition throughout the team is huge, but it's going to be interesting to see the formation that Afshin Goatby goes for.
Yes.
Because it's like, we spoke to Moses Dyer as well, and we'll play that interview a little later. But it's like he likes to play two up front. And it's like, that's not something we saw a lot of. But I kind of feel we might see a little bit of that this year. But like right now for you, what do you see as the best attacking formation for this team? And from an attacking point of view, who's the front two, the front three?
Yeah, this is really, really difficult because there's like last year it would be easy to answer that, but there's so many different pieces. Now, I'm personally partial to, and I think Afshin would probably be wise to do this, but I like a 4-2-3-1 where the middle of the three attackers can be more like Dyer could play there as a second striker kind of option, or probably more my preference is you have Gabby in there, Gabby as the playmaker, or Ben Fisk in there as a playmaker. I think Mickey's going to be one of the wide players for sure, but then you're spoiled for options for maybe the second wide player, right? It could be Ben, it could be TJ, it could be Zach. I'm probably even forgetting someone else, I think, in the mix there. But like there's so many good options, right? The big thing is, oh, I mean, that's like the other option. If you're talking about who's going to play, like you kind of presume Diaz is going to start at least.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you've got to think he is on paper, the first choice striker, even though he isn't performing maybe as the first choice striker. So it's like, do you give him a couple of games? We touched on this in the last show. Do you give him a couple of games to see can he perform? But then you also have Jose Navarro that's coming now.
Yeah, exactly. And
he's an out and out centre forward, as far as I understand.
I've liked everything I've seen from him, and he's another option who you could play kind of with or behind Diaz, right?
Yeah, because I mean, my initial thought was we'd see two, and we would see Diaz and Navarro to start, and like go with the Mexican front two.
Yeah, but then you have Moses as an option there.
Yeah,
EJ as an option there.
Because Moses Dyer, it's one of those things we've said, like, how do you keep everyone happy? He's a guy that is going to want to play. Ben Fisk's a guy that's going to want to play. TJ, do you manage his minutes still? Or is this the year that he gets more consistent starts? I mean, there's so many questions, and we'll sit down with Afshin and we'll ask him a lot of these, but it's a great problem to have. But I don't know. I just worry that trying to keep harmony amongst them all and keep everyone sharp, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and that's one of his largest tasks, right? Is to do just that. It's going to be interesting. I think I don't know the extent or whatever, but we saw TJ in his street clothes at the Wednesday game in Newton, and heard that maybe he is carrying a knock or not quite match fit or whatever due to not an injury type issue. So you're kind of hoping that he, 3 weeks or whatever it is to the season kicking, just under 3 weeks to the season kicking off, that he'll be good to go. But yeah, there are so many options. It's kind of exciting. Very exciting.
One of the options that we talked about there is Kiwi forward Moses Dyer. So we got a chance to speak to him this week as well. 3 years in the CPL with Valor, went down to play USL Championship with FC Tulsa, back in the CPL and raring to go and set his mark on the league. He's a guy that scores goals. Let's hear how he feels about coming to Vancouver. So Moses, back in the CPL, you had that year away. What made you decide to come back now to the CPL, and how did this move to Vancouver FC come about?
Coming back to the CPL, obviously Vancouver, the place, is a big factor. I've always wanted to live in Vancouver, and seeing the signings that AFC have been making this year, it made me excited. And I saw that there was like a project that they were building here, so that's why I decided to come back here.
You had, I think, 3 seasons in the league already. How did you find the quality then? I know, bizarrely, I've actually watched a lot of NPL games in New Zealand in the last few years because they're streamed on YouTube. So I've seen a lot of the games down there.
NPL?
Yeah.
In the New Zealand League?
Yeah, I'm bizarrely obsessed.
You must be bored.
I'm bizarrely obsessed with New Zealand. I follow a lot of New Zealand comedians. I don't know. Maybe it is bored, but I think I'm a night owl, so the games are on late. So I've been watching tons of NPL games since COVID and stuff hit. How did you find the jump in quality? Because obviously the CPL is definitely a lot better quality than what NPL is.
I didn't go from NPL in New Zealand.
No,
I
know
Northern
you
Premier
were.
League to CPL.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's so many differences. It's like what do you call the leagues here? The League One Ontario League. It's like that. They train you train a few times a week. You train in the afternoon. People are coming after work, so it's completely different. CPL is fully professional. We have good media people like Michael, so it's a bit different here.
So how did you end up there in the CPL? Because I know you were in Norway for a little bit. So how did the move to Valor come about?
It was just through an agent, like any other move that I've ever had. I was in Norway for 2 years, a year and a half, and I had the opportunity to come to Canada. I saw the league. It was 2020, and obviously it was pre-COVID, and I saw how much it was growing already. So I decided that it was exciting for me. It was a good move for me.
Was it weird, like being over here when COVID hit? 'Cause I know New Zealand really shut down for a long time, so I guess you didn't really get to get back home.
Winnipeg was the weirdest place because everything was open because we didn't even have we didn't have a case out there for the longest time. But the rules of the CPL were the same for everyone. So we weren't allowed to train, we weren't allowed to do anything, but everything was open. Obviously, we weren't really. Anyways, yeah.
I know you're not meant to do stuff, but yeah. The move to Tulsa, did you want to just like try something a bit different? Is that why you wanted to see what USL was like?
Yeah, I wanted to play in America. I played in Canada the last 3 years, and I thought it was time to move to America. So that's why.
You must have a thing for places in the middle of nowhere then, like Tulsa, Winnipeg.
Why do you think I came back to Vancouver? Because I can't stand living in those places anymore.
I don't blame
No
you.
disrespect to Winnipeg, though.
No,
I love Winnipeg.
like,
I love my
that's gonna
time
get you
there.
a bit of heat.
It was just
Because I know you're from North Palmerston, and from watching all the New Zealand shows I watched, North Palmerston's not got a great reputation.
no. I was born there. I moved to Auckland when I was about 2.
All right, so you got away.
Yeah. I grew up in Auckland, the big city. So, and it's very similar to Vancouver as well.
Yeah.
The people are very nice, like Auckland. The scenery, like just the outdoors, so nice here. I'm happy here.
Moses, I don't know much about New Zealand aside from Lord of the Rings, so
That's like everyone though.
yeah, exactly. So unlike Michael, I don't have any questions about what it's like there. I just want to, if you could touch a little bit more on your time in Tulsa. Yeah, how did it help you grow as a player, playing in a different setup in a different league, and what will it add to your game coming back to the Canadian Premier League?
I mean, you learn a lot of different things everywhere you go, especially playing under different coaches. And I think becoming more of a striker over there, because obviously my last time in Canada, I was bouncing around different positions, as I was last year as well. But the coaches were really, they were really helping me become a proper striker. So I think that was the best thing that came from Tulsa.
Okay, well, that leads into one of my favorite questions to ask, especially our new players, and especially this year. Obviously, AFTN is the decision maker when it comes to tactical formations and setups and all that kind of stuff. But if Moses was setting up his own team, what kind of formation are you ideally playing in, and where are you placing yourself?
Any formation with a front two. I like playing with 2 strikers.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting because we didn't get to see a lot of 2 strikers last year, but we obviously have in preseason this year. So that's really, really interesting. One of the questions I have for you, Moses, was your stint at Valor, you scored quite a few goals in the CPL, right? It's a young league. You're part of that history and stuff. What kind of personal goals do you have for yourself this year in terms of like whether it's goal scoring or goal contributions or anything like that you come back to the league with those kind of expectations or benchmarks you're kind of setting for yourself?
Yeah, I mean the numbers I'll keep to myself, but overall, I would say I want to be enjoying football. I want to be winning. Because no matter what your personal goals are, if you're winning, everything is so much better. So yeah, I just want to be enjoying football, winning, and I think it's no secret we want to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, and actually, maybe I'll ask one other one. This year at Vancouver FC, the based on the squad building that's taking place in the off season. Michael and I've talked about this a bunch. There looks like a tremendous amount of competition for places, and the forward areas are no different to that. Could you maybe speak about that, the challenges of that, but also the pros of that as well?
No, I think every player wants that because if you're doing well, if you're not doing well, and you have another player in your position that's fighting for your spot, that's only going to push you. You know, if you have a deep squad like we do, you're never going to get comfortable. And I think that's what, the key to coming here at Vancouver. There's a lot of competition in all positions, especially in the attack.
And then how do you deal with that as a player? Because it's this weird dichotomy, right? Where you want to be playing, but you also want your teammates to do well. So sometimes it means you're not going to play, and but you still want them to do well, but you also want to beat them for the place in the team. Like, how do you balance that with the interrelational side of things and the performance side of things?
I mean, it's say you're doing well, you can't get comfortable, so you're on your toes all the time, and it's gonna push you to keep doing well. Say you're not doing well, and you get put to the bench or whatever it is, you're gonna have a good wake up call real quick, especially if the player in your position is doing well. And competition is only a good thing, especially within a team. So that's what excites me. I can't be comfortable at any times, even if I am playing well. So yeah, it's only a good thing.
Cool. Looking forward to seeing you play more. It was great to see you last Wednesday. And yeah, looking forward to the season, Moses, man.
I appreciate it, Zach. Thank you.
Kiwi forward Moses Dyer there, Zach. Very confident man, very confident player. Can't wait to see the reaction he gets when he goes back to Winnipeg now.
Well, I think they like him though.
Well, they liked him before he said he couldn't wait to get away from Winnipeg.
Well, yeah.
I know. I'm joking, but
I think most people in Winnipeg feel like that as well. No?
Yeah, I think that's fair. It is very cold there. But we touched on that in the last part. He's another exciting guy, and he's a guy that gives other options to Afshin Goatby here. And he's scored in this league as well. He's got a good goal scoring record. It's like about 1-3.
I think it's exactly 1-3. I think he has 19 goals in 57 games, which is really good for this league.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting the chemistry, and I think it's going to boil down to who can get this chemistry. Like, which of these guys can get this chemistry going, and Afshin will maybe ride them a little bit. And it's a long, grueling season. There's a lot of travel. I'm interested to see who steps up here and who has the right attitude and who delivers as well. And we mentioned it in the last week's show. We won't beat it to death, but for Alejandro Diaz, the pressure is on him big time. Because if he's not performing and his loan deal is finishing in the summer, you've got to imagine he's on one of the biggest tickets on the team as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, if any of these other guys stand up, it's going to be really tough for him.
It will be. It will be. The other thing about Moses, too, is that goal scoring record at Valor, I think he played a lot more wide left than he is currently playing, right? He talked about how he wants to be a center forward, which is Diaz's spot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It was interesting when he also said his preference is to play in a front two.
Yeah. Which I would like to see. I wouldn't mind a 4-4-2 just with those pieces that's there, because like Zach Verhoeven can play the wide winger role in a 4-4-2 that would track back well because he's added that to his game.
If you do two up front, though, my question is, where does the creativity come in midfield? Are you going to go one holding midfield, or is it just going to be, Reynan or Simons or?
Well, I mean, you've got Vasco Fry.
Vasco Fry. That's the other one I was trying to think of.
It's like Fiske, Caden Chung if he's playing in the midfield as well. Yeah, there's so many pieces. It's a great problem to have. I think, and we'll do our CPL preview maybe in next week's show, maybe the week after. My timings in my head's not quite there, but I think it might be even next week's show we'll do our CPL preview. It's one of the strongest off-season builds by far, and I think Ottawa's probably above them. But they're looking good, and it's just whether they can deliver on the pitch now.
Yeah. Ottawa, Aparicio is official. Is Didic official?
I don't think I've seen that as official.
Because he was there with them. He was wearing their top, and he was, I don't know, was their preseason in Spain or what it was. I saw him wearing like their T-shirt, in some photos with Manny. Yeah, I didn't know if he's official though. Manny, I saw like the official announcement.
By the time this comes out, he might be official. But yeah, it's going to be a really good year. I'm really looking forward. Last year I felt was the best of the five. The quality was better all round. A lot more parity, which made it more exciting as well. And you look at the teams that did well and the teams that didn't do well, and we'll get into all this in our preview. But it's definitely an exciting year ahead in the CPL.
Absolutely. The best year yet.
It should be 6 of the best, and 6 will be the best. That should be their marketing for this year. Because when I was at school, 6 of the best meant getting hit by a leather belt. Different times, different times. So Vancouver FC also had another pre-season friendly this week. The day after we spoke to Moses and Zach. I didn't get out to it because I'd had a sneak peek at what the Fraser Valley All-Star team was going to be, and I thought it's going to be a hammering. I'm already out at games on Tuesday, Friday and Saturday night. I should probably see my wife at some point since I was away, then she was away. And that's the key to a good marriage, Zach. Just never see your partner. But you did get out, and it was a big 7-0 win. VFC did find their shooting boots, got a little bit of chemistry going, and Moses Dyer was one of the players on the score sheet.
He was, one of many. It was a very cool evening that ended with quite the downpour.
Oh yes, Tom was saying it was
the very end. Yeah. Not fun.
I was like, there's no photos from Tom from post game stuff.
It was one of those games where it reminded me of like back in the day when Germany would be preparing for a World Cup or a Euro, and they'd schedule their last match against a team that they would just thrash, just for like the goal scorers to get in some good form and to work on the chemistry and the confidence or whatever. It very much reminded me like that. Unlike the game the week before where you were at, where it was more of a battle and the
VMSL is by far the stronger of the two amateur leagues. A lot of those players as we talked about in the first half of that one, could easily go and play in CPL. But there's a couple of good standouts from the Fraser Valley thing. Also, it really wasn't the number one Fraser Valley All-Star team either. There was some key players missing. There was no Whitecaps under 19 players in their lineup either. And they are in the league.
There was also some who were resting for, like, there was another cup final or something, right?
Yeah, the Pakenham Cup final has been this weekend as well. Yeah. So, yeah. But
it was a fun night. On a personal note, it was good to see players like, it was really great to watch Coda Lamoth play again.
What a story for like us to like Slamo being on the show in the early days of it as well. Now his kid playing in a game like this against Vancouver FC.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Got to see him play for a shorter period of time, just not that long ago also, and then to see that he got to play second half. Obviously, coming into a game 4-0 down at the half is not great.
No.
But you could just tell the way Coda was playing that it meant a lot to him, and he really enjoyed it. And like you, I found out he was also very surprised and disappointed at who was actually going to be a part of the squad for this, because he thought they could have given him a little bit definitely a stronger test. It had been some of the better players from the Valley, but all in all, it was a fun night. Got to see a bunch of guys score. Some of the goals were actually quite nice.
And
Maybe
the last of which was by a trialist.
Trialist number 5.
Guy that we've had on the show, Mattia Capagna. I don't mind mentioning him. I'd be very happy if Matteo gets added. It would be another strong defensive addition, just adding to everything that we've just said about how tough it's going to be to keep everyone happy up front. It's going to be tough at the back as well. But they went 4 at the back.
It was 4 at the back again. He played. He came on at the halftime for David Norman VI, and partnered Rocco for most of the second half, if not all the second half. I can't remember if I think Rocco stayed the whole time. And did well. Yeah, nicked a goal there at the end. Yeah, it was a fun night, and it is interesting to see them continue to play with this kind of 2-striker approach, like an out and out kind of 4-4-2. I don't personally love that, but if it works, then I'll be happy. It was also one of the things that we've talked about before is missing from both these last couple of Wednesday games has been international call-up Gabriel Batar. And it's going to be really interesting to see how they fit that in, because that's where I think maybe a 4-2-3-1 is a little bit better, where you have a Gabby or a Ben or even Moses Dyer playing more in a withdrawn role behind a center forward, with maybe a heightened playmaking role in addition to also trying to find the back of the net. But we'll see how that all plays out. But again, like we said, a lot of options and I think it's safe to say even like an exponentially more experienced and higher quality squad than in 2023.
Absolutely. And there'll be another couple of local friendlies that will be getting announced this week as well. So watch the space and you'll have some more chances to get out and see the team. But that is it for the football chat. Of course, it is not it for the show. It's time for this episode's wavelength. So since we had Phil Neville on the show this week, I thought I'd play a Manchester United related song. Not one of my favourite teams, but fun fact, of all the MLS managers, Phil Neville is the only one that has played against East Fife. And yes, I will somehow ask him about that at some point down the line. Phil Neville was a substitute when Man United came up to play East Fife in a testimonial game in 1995. Spoken about that game before. David Beckham scored a couple of goals, and it was an absolutely amazing Man United team. You had the legends like Dennis Irwin, Steve Bruce and Lee Sharp. Roy Keane played in that game, Brian McClare. You had the new lads, Paul Scholes, the Neville brothers, David Beckham, who scored 2 goals. And it was a fantastic day that everyone connected with East Fife will always remember. But another fantastic day that everyone connected with Manchester United will remember, and Zach, I know you're going to want to forget this one, is the 1999 Champions League final, coming up for the 25th anniversary of that one. And some audio from that match is sampled in the song that we're going to play in Wavelength this week. It comes from a Manchester punk band called Slaughter and the Dogs. Started off way back in 1975, still going strong to this very day. But this is a single that they released in 2020 as a tribute to Manchester United, the team that they support. This is Slaughter and the Dogs, Manchester Boys.
Beckham crosses from the left, right footed, it's a clear header, and it's into the net! Solskjaer has won the European Cup for Manchester United! It's absolutely astonishing! It was Sheringham who headed it on, and Solskjaer stabbed the ball with his right foot into the roof of the net, and Manchester United rule Europe! I don't believe it, but it's happened! They've come from 1-0 down in stoppage time to beat Bayern Munich! And the Munich players are on their knees. They don't know what's hit them. Manchester's hit them.
one and we're over the moon, and we all sing together on a bus. Now we don't have much money and our throats are dry, and we're all off on a pub crawl. We'll drink you under the table and kindly take you home if you decide to fall. Oh, Manchester boys are the very, very best to our family, friends and team. Oh, Manchester boys are the very, very best, the cherry on the cream. Oh, Manchester boys are the very, very best to our family, friends and team. Oh, Manchester boys are the very, very best, the cherry on the cream. Away, you know that we're here. You can hear our voices roar. The lions on the loose and the balls in the net. It's another great goal like before. Now we're on the move, there's no stopping us. To the final, that is our goal. We want the cup and we want to hear Manchester Cathedral's home. Oh, Manchester boys are the very, very best to our family, friends and team. Oh, Manchester boys are the very, very best, the cherry on the cream. Oh, Manchester boys are the very, very best to our family, friends and team. Oh, Manchester boys are the very, very best, the cherry on the cream. Manchester boys are the very best. 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 Manchester boys! Come on, let me hear you now. Manchester, la 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 la, Manchester, la 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 la, Manchester, la 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 la, Manchester, la 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 la.
Manchester punk band slaughtering the dogs there with their tribute to Man United, Manchester Boys. That is it now though for this show. Just before we go, Zach, let folk know where they can find you online. Plug anything you want from the Fraser Valley Fanatics or anything interesting that's caught your eye this week, any football that you have been watching.
You can find me on X very occasionally, tweeting there or posting there. I guess. Whatever it's called nowadays. Xing there? What's it called, Michael? I don't even know. Anyways, it's at Zachary AM. Locally, the Vancouver Football Club has announced the secondary kit launch is, I believe, this Thursday. So if you're like a season ticket member or whatever, you got an email to RSVP or get your free tickets for that. And then, like you said earlier in the show, hopefully there'll be other announcements about one or two or maybe even more, but probably one or two kind of preseason friendlies happening between now and the lead up to April 14th, which will be a really exciting kickoff to a second season that has just lots of anticipation amongst the fanatics of the team, the fans of the team, and that there's that considerable more local buy-in that I know you were so longing for and so frustrated about last year. And with I don't know, now it probably feels like a couple of people aren't maybe officially signed yet, but it feels like a good dozen of the players are local players who've grown up here and are from here, and so it's exciting times. Anyways, you want to be a part of that, you can find the Fanatics online and most of the social media spaces, and you can get involved there or get tickets there, or it's going to be a good year.
I know everyone is at the end of these shows, they're just waiting for Dick Watch, and it has been a good year for East Fife. 8 games now under Dick Campbell, unbeaten. Another win today. I actually woke up early this morning, mainly because I hadn't put my phone on silent, and then I got a message through about the game, the East Fife game. I was like, since that's woke me up, I may as well just watch it. So, yeah, watched that this morning. Nice win for the Fife. It's going down to the wire. 5 games left. We could still finish second, or we could just miss out in the playoffs. But considering a few weeks ago we were really worried that we might end up getting relegated and go out of the league altogether, this has just been an absolutely amazing turnaround. It just shows you sometimes what just a little bit of tweaking a new manager coming in can do to a set of players.
You got to show me this large flag you brought home from Scotland sometime.
Oh,
I assume you just sleep in it or something. Or you wrap yourself in it at night or something.
I can actually, if anyone wants to see it, if they go onto the AFTN website Twitter account, that is my profile picture on it.
Oh, that's nice. Is it like factory?
It's custom made.
Custom made, yeah. Okay.
Actually, that doesn't even really do it justice.
No, it doesn't.
No, it's 12 foot.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, as you can imagine, that filled most of my suitcase. I wrapped the TV that I brought back in it. So it did serve a purpose.
It was multi-use.
Yeah. Why I brought it back and didn't leave it there for someone to take to games, I don't know.
Oh, that's hilarious. I did watch some. I was busy during the day today, and because I don't know if it's the time change in Europe hasn't happened or whatever.
Oh, it happens to Easter Sunday.
Yeah. So
tonight.
The late kickoff in Germany today was at 10:30, and I had to be somewhere, so I was like, oh, I'll just watch the game later. But for some reason, DAZN wouldn't let me watch. It would only let me watch highlights on my phone, my iPad, on my TV.
Of the Bayern game, or?
Of the Bayern game.
Oh.
But it was one of those games. In the end, I was like, Kirk, should we wait a day and see, or should we just watch these highlights? So we were like, let's just watch the highlights. And it was one of those days where you're like, I don't even want to watch these highlights. This is so horrendous.
Yeah, I saw the result. When you messaged no spoilers, but you never have to message me.
No, it's not just about the result, Michael. Like, I can, you can handle that result if there's like some
and
there's like people who don't miss empty net headers.
Yeah. Harry Kane's a jinx. He's never going to win a trophy.
Multiple people from, I don't know, maybe from the same island missing empty net headers. Anyways, but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, the league campaign's been over for a while, but this was a big I think another nail kind of in the coffin for that. But it's all about Europe and it's all about Europe and all about determining who the coach is next year, because
I was going to mention to you, Xavi Alonso has decided to stay at Bayer Leverkusen, which I really admire.
Yeah, I admire him for that too, as much as I prefer he come to Bayern or return to Bayern. But yeah, it's a huge issue for Bayern because there are a number of players who are in the same situation as Alphonso Davies in terms of their contracts are at or near the end, and most of them are all kind of publicly or privately saying the same thing. Well, before we make a decision about what we want to do, we want to know who the coach is, which is totally understandable.
Yeah, it's understandable.
And if it's not Xavi Alonso, that might be concerning too, because obviously these last couple of decisions have not been good, especially Thomas Tuchel. And Thomas Tuchel, it was well known that he has these issues with players, right? Like with how he interacts with players. And so this is a big part of what they're trying to assess is, the next person they bring in needs to be someone who is better at man management than Thomas Tuchel is. So anyways, interesting times, but
yeah, I mean,
it's nice. It's nice. I know Leverkusen is finally gonna win this, which is nice for them because they've had so many close calls of not winning things. So,
see, I respect you for being a Bayern fan. I know it's your team, and I'm happy for you when they do well. But I do like it when, like, if somebody in Scotland outside of Celtic or Rangers won the Premier, I'd be so delighted. I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
And in England, I know Leicester spent money and it wasn't the big fairy tale that some folk made it out to be, because they still spent a hell of a lot of money.
And they had rich foreign owners. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so lovely to see one of the so-called big 4 or 5 not win it.
Yeah.
And it's the same in Germany. Like, if Bayern cannot win it and you've got a Leverkusen, I really enjoy seeing stuff like that. And there was a lot of the English pundits, because Alonso wasn't coming to Liverpool, were like, oh, terrible decision, he's going to regret this. And it's like, you don't know he's going to regret it. You don't know what he's going to do with this Leverkusen side.
Yeah, he really wants to play with them in the Champions League.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he said,
still...
I've got unfinished business. And I admire that so much, because he could easily have just taken the big gig. And he might not get another offer like that.
I mean,
but he's seeing his job through, and I love that.
They're 13 points up in the league. They're in the, I forget what round it is of the Europa League now. They're in, like, I want to say the quarterfinals-ish of the Europa League. They're in the semifinals of the German Cup. And Michael, do you know about the other semifinalists?
Well, I know it's Saarbrücken.
Saarbrücken's not against them. Saarbrücken's on the other half and playing Kaiserslautern, second division team.
I know. I'm excited for that.
And Leverkusen is playing, I believe, it's John Humphrey's F95. I think it's Fortuna Düsseldorf.
Does this mean if Leverkusen gets to the final and Saarbrücken get to the final, Saarbrücken's going to be in Europe? That's how it works in Scotland. If the champion's in the Scottish Cup final, the runner-up goes into Europe.
It used to be, for sure. I'm not sure if it still is that way, but it might be, which would be great.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Saarbrücken is like, because Saarbrücken has like been in like, they were in like the European Cup in the 50s or whatever. So they're one of the teams when I would play FIFA and I would start in the third division in Germany. I've used them a lot over the years. Not all the time. I've used a couple other lower division teams, and now you can just make your own team and get rid of a club. No, it would be cool. It would be cool if they made the final. I mean, they knocked out Bayern. They just knocked out, who was it, Werder Bremen, I think, in the last round, which was really exciting. And they're on a crazy run. So the German Cup final, it could be 2 second division teams. It could be a second and a third division team. It could be a first and a second, first and a third. Like it's a crazy year. Yeah, it's a really exciting year. And honestly, Leverkusen does have a few detractors because they are one of those exempt teams from 50+1, because they are one of the 2 factory kind of teams, right? Because it's Bayer Leverkusen, it's the aspirin company, right? That's who it is, right?
I remember reading that.
So they're like, it's like Wolfsburg, right? Like they're the 2 kind of company teams that have received an exemption for 50+1. So there's some people who don't like that, but not nearly as much as the newer clubs who have circumvented 50+1, like Dead Bull and in a bit of a different way, Hoffenheim. I really want them to win the Europa League for sure. The cup, I prefer one of those other 3 teams to win, and the league, I don't think even they can screw this up. So it's good for them.
Well, there's your weekly dose of German football that we like to stick in at the end.
And you told me today you never like to talk about it. Oh no, you never watch it. You never watch it.
I don't. I am going to watch the Saarbrücken Cup semi-final though. I'm excited for that.
That's on the Zone.
I don't have that. I'll find another way of watching it. But that is it for another episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Thank you for being with us this Easter Sunday. Hope you've had a wonderful Easter, however you celebrate it, whatever it means to you. Just have some nice family time. And of course, get some cheap chocolate. We'll be back with another episode soon. We've got another derby to talk about. A Canadian one this time. Until then, thanks for listening. Take care, and Mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
More than a name, that's what we
AFTN